Please proceed. Without when we say to continue funding salary, additional person. Yeah, no, I know that. I just was curious. I just wanted the agenda for that. Okay.
That was asked.
Yeah.
It was approved already, but.
Yeah, I just want to be sure.
Okay, any comments from the public on this? No further comments on this. All right, at this time, I would like to make a motion to authorize the additional $65,000 towards Moreland Park on the ambulance service.
Second. Motion was moved and seconded to authorize the additional $65,000 for the Philmont Fire Company ambulance service. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? Thank you, Commissioners. The ayes have it.
All right, my next item tonight is the ladder truck final payment. We are nearing the completion of delivery of the ladder truck. Today, the board has authorized payment of $581,517.65 towards the total $2.1 million purchase. System manager Lee has the two bank loan finalized, which will provide the next $1.1 million, leaving a balance of $418,482.35 to be paid from the township fire tax fund capital reserve. Both the loan amount and balance will be owed when the truck arrives. Therefore, we are requesting the board's authorization for cash balance amount so we can prepare the check once the delivery date is confirmed. So basically, our ladder truck's almost there. We're looking at anywhere from 3 weeks to a month and a half, you think?
Yeah, I'm going out myself, fire chief and chief engineer on the 20th of this month to do final inspection. Once that's released, it'll go to Lancaster local dealer for some final work, probably about 3 weeks. And then I'll be down there and start the training.
So we're hoping beginning of October to actually see it, and then another 2 or 3 months to have it in service. Okay. Great.
And good training.
Any questions from the board on this? Anything from the public on this? Nope. I'd like the motion to approve the balance of the payment of $418,482.35 towards the ladder truck. I'm making that motion just to clarify. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the balance payment of $418,482.35 towards the ladder truck. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you, Commissioners. The ayes have it.
You guys started hearing me talk yet? Almost done, I promise. Next up, Huntingdon Valley Library event request. The HV Library is hosting their second annual Books and Brews event on Saturday, September 7th, from noon to 4 p.m. As we do each time the library hosts an event serving alcohol, I'm recommending the board specifically authorize the event in the one-time serving of alcohol since the event takes place in the township property. Any questions from the board on this? It's gonna be a great event. They had it last year. Comes out. There's gonna be a mini golf set up. They're looking for community sponsors if anybody's interested. Please get in touch with the library. Sponsor our whole sponsor event. Any comments from the public on this? No? All right, I'm going to make a motion to allow the Huntingdon Valley Library to host their Books and Brews event as requested. Second, please.
Motion's been moved and seconded to allow the Huntingdon Library to host their Books and Brews event as requested. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you, Commissioners. The ayes have it. We're going to the library.
Smith, safety group boards.
Yeah.
My four was obviously submitted into Nelly and Hoffman. Month of July, get another busy month, just over 1,400 calls for service. And Brian, for the month, we did have an uptick in some frauds, so again, I'm going to share some info on that. Be careful you're sharing any personal info. You get unusual emails or calls you're not expecting. I know we're getting probably everybody's getting a lot of the
unusual texts and calls. Do not give any of your personal information, monitor your accounts. There are a lot of free options that you can do for the credit reporting bureaus to help you monitor that, for free. So keep that stuff in mind. Shred and properly dispose of any personal documents kind of helps us eliminate some of those frauds that happen. As we noted earlier, there were our 3 new officers who started. All 3 of them are on the street in their training program. It is a 3-month process for them to be fully trained. Did want to thank Officer Kelly Height. She resigned after 5 years of service. We are completing backgrounds to hire her replacement. She did a lot of good stuff here in her 5 years. She just chose to leave for a better schedule. Not like me. It was difficult. We have some good community events in the month of July. I know Commissioner KURITZ brought it up. The July 3rd, we helped out serving food to the local rec camp kids. It was a great day. That same day, we also assisted Brandon Police Department with their annual fireworks. So we had some of our bicycle officers out there helping control the crowd to make sure everything went okay. July 20th, myself and a few other officers were out at the high school partnering with Representative Gent's office for a license plate restoration event. So we had over 60+ Lower Moreland and surrounding community residents come out and get set up for brand new license plates because of the paint peeling off and all that kind of stuff. So it was a great thing, a lot of good interaction with the community. A couple other things, we're currently partnering with the Montgomery County Department of Health on back to school supplies drive. So we have a large box downstairs in the police department. It's already been filled twice over. And this kind of helps needy families in Montgomery County. So it's a great thing, and it runs through August 23rd. There is an upcoming closure on Library Road in Philadelphia, just reminding everybody that's August 23rd through August 26th. As we know, there's a lot of traffic problems here, so try to avoid that area while they repair the railroad crossing in that area. We do a couple other upcoming events. September 12th, we have our senior scam jam event. And that'll be at the community room across the street. And then on September 21st, Moreland High School is doing our annual color run to support pediatric cancer research. So we have some officers that are out and be riding bikes in the area and also doing the leading and following of the runners as they go for envelopes. And I just want to thank the commissioners again for the approval of the accreditation service. I do think it's a great thing for the department. So we'll just keep that going.
Any questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Thanks very much.
I just want to know what you said about something same.
Scam Jam, it's an event for senior Scam Jam event. So, over at the community room, they'll play games, and I think bingo they're gonna do, and just give different, advice on avoiding scams that unfortunately affect a lot of our, older community. So, they kind of hold that. That is September 21st, and it is 1 to 3 p.m. in the community room. Across the street, the community room, the library.
Oh.
Yes. September 21st.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, can I ask you a question? You know, the board knows, but I think we've been going a lot of questions from some of my residents about the 3 probationary officers. Apparently, there's a buzz around the public, my word, that we're hiring extra officers, and our board knows that the budgeted and the replacement. Can you just explain
Yes, one of the
public
yes.
about the 3 probation?
So one of them replaced Detective Holly Galata, who retired in January after 27 years of service, I believe it was. The other, so the second one replaced Chief David Serrato, who left. I came from within, obviously. And then the third is an additional officer. That's our 27th officer, which is going to be our second school resource officer. So we're going to have 2 school resource officers amongst the 4 schools. So it is an increase in the department there. And the school does allocate some funding towards that as well. So we'll pays for department officers. Now it's an existing officer in the department. It's not one of the brand new officers.
All budget, but no,
But yeah, no additional, this is just pretty good for replacement person, and then we will be replacing officers. It will be a 4th new officer, but again, it's just replacement.
and I think Chief.
Chief Showmaker. We have, Fire Marshal Shell.
Yeah. I'm just going to combine the two, real quick to deliver, and I'll keep it very brief. You have our bullet points from our reports that submitted to the commissioners. On Fire Marshal Shaw, you notice there's a number of mutual aid, fire investigations, as well as a number of, fire inspections that were conducted, code enforcement inspections that were conducted, some use and occupancy inspections that were conducted. I'll touch on some of the fire investigations, fire report. As well as my report, you'll see the bullets for both, and one's a joint report between the two communities, as you're aware. We spent a lot of time last month planning the fireworks with the emergency management folks for that, and we also participated with that, as well as the Huntingdon Fire Company did too. It's a pretty busy month for us, unfortunately, but on 7/17/24, we had storm-related electrical fire and brush fire up on Creek Road, which put us in service for approximately 3.5 hours due to the live electrical lines down. Trying to get people out to secure those lines before we complete extinguishment and protect the exposures. That's why it took so long. On the same day, we had a building fire down at the Murray Avenue School. It's a storm-related fire. We had a smoke condition in the school. Upon investigation, we found some motors that were cooked from a lightning strike. The same night at 2466 High Road for a dwelling fire as a result of a lightning strike. The importance of this call, this was a substantial loss fire. But what's important is we had in-station crews at both stations. We were able to get in and make a quick hit on the fire. Turned out there was multiple fires because lightning travels throughout and causes a lot of different ignition areas. But being we're in station, we had a quick hit on it. The difference between substantial damage and a total loss fire by far. And again, the weather conditions were atrocious. It was raining so hard you couldn't see the drive. So we had some challenges there with the position of the building as well and how it sits back off the road and being able to get our apparatus into the area. On 7/25/24, at the Artist Senior Living Center on Liberty Drive, we had a mass casualty incident. That's a result of an electrical line coming down and surging through the lower voltage line to the facility. Unfortunately, we had a 10-hour operation there where we had to relocate, catalog, process, and relocate 58 residents out of the facility. It's a very time-consuming event. It was very hot. We had interaction with our police, fire, and EMS folks, our emergency management folks, and our mutual aid partners, not only from local, but from the county and the state. It was a large operation. We established a unified command system and handled it through that. It was a very successful outcome for us. To this date, the facility is still closed. I think it's going to be some time to understand what the damage that occurred. Okay. Just real quickly to go over the numbers and then I'll get out of here because I'm up here all night. For Bernathen Fire, emergency medical calls in Bernathen, 14 calls for the month. Medical calls for Bernathen and Moreland Township for the month, 99. Emergency medical calls other, 66, that's outside the area that they handle dispatches. And monthly total for EMS calls for Bernathen Fire Company, 179 calls for the month. Year to date, we're at 1134. That's as of the end of July. Fire calls for Bernathen Fire Company, calls in Bernathen 12. That's pretty high for them. Usually it's a lot lower. In Lower Moreland, 27 for Bernathen. For Bernathen Fire Company, other outside of their area, 5. Total for their monthly calls, 44 year to date, 238 for Bernathen Fire, and for Huntingdon Valley Fire Company, calls in Lower Moreland, 76 calls for the month. In Bernathen, they responded to 11 calls for them. Huntingdon Valley Fire calls in other outside of mutual indoor mutual aid area is 5. Monthly fire calls total 52 and year to date 251. So you can see the disparity there of the call impacts on the two communities. But any questions for anyone?
One quick one, Chief Schumacher, or is they're still not able to get back to are they able to get back?
No, that facility is closed. It's my understanding, and Bill maybe can elaborate a little bit on this, but my understanding is they are in the process of replacing every electrical outlet switch fixture in them. When we got in there, We were chasing one fire after another at the walls. They were small in nature, but it just made the place habitable. We were able to consolidate the residents in one area. We were able to bring down these air conditioning units from the state that helped us with that. That's allowed us to process the folks while we set up the arrangements for other facilities and transportation. That's also supposed to be done in our emergency management plan. Unfortunately, these plans are usually shelf plans, so when we get on site, when we're trying to do it, we're working there. We're trying to assist the facility in making those contracts and getting the work done. It's important that they do that, not us, but we assist them in getting to that point. Unfortunately, our EMS folks, as well as fire company folks, have some great contacts, and they knew who to call to help out. So it was definitely a positive situation.
And I want to.
Anything?
Any questions from the board? Any comments from the public?
Thank you
very much. Thank you. Brings me to my final, tonight is my liaison positions. First is civil service, there's no meeting, I have nothing to report on that. Second is the Huntingdon Valley Library, as we already approved, books and brews and golf fundraiser on Saturday, September the 2nd, 2024, from noon until 4 p.m. Come enjoy some snacks, beer, and games while supporting the library. Enjoy mini golf inside the library and the kid-friendly event for all ages. $5 suggested donation for entry. Please sign up for this for another tea-time slot between noon and 4 p.m. Movie night under the stars will be on Saturday, September 21st at 7 p.m. Bring your blankets and lawn chairs for a showing of the movie Hit 2024. And a giant inflatable screen. Right at EJ, it's 104 minutes. All ages welcome. Children must be accompanied by an adult. Light refreshments will be provided and sponsored by the township. The location will be the library lawn near the lower parking lot. Rain location will be inside the red line gym. Immigration, assimilation, and baseball. Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. The presentation by Jeff Thomas will discuss how baseball has historically been seen as America's game, even by those new to our country. Many immigrants believe that by understanding and enjoying baseball, they would be more readily accepted into the American culture and life. Examine the interplay between baseball and the assimilation of immigrants into American society. The presenter, Jeff Thomas, has been a Phillies season ticket holder for 40 plus years and has played, coached, and taught baseball for many decades. That concludes my reports for this evening, and I'm turning it back over to President KURITZ.
Thank you so much, Vice President Canal. Next, the chair recognizes Commissioner Newell, Chair of the Committee of Development. Commissioner Newell.
Thank you, President Kurtz. The first item on my agenda tonight is to review the sketch plan for Hightop Real Estate Development, 3993 Huntingdon Pike. And I'll go ahead and invite the applicant to come up and see the applicant here. So come on up, and as you're getting set up in, I remind everybody that this is a sketch plan review, so there's no review, there's no vote that will happen tonight. This is merely to go over what was discussed during the planning commission, for the applicant to share with us some ideas that they have with the space. I'll remind everyone, who might not be familiar with the address, this is corner of County Line Road and Pike. And what we'll do is we'll kind of go through what you're proposing or what you're asking, and then I'll go around to the various departments that we have for engineering, and township, and traffic to make their comments. I'll ask for comments from the board. And I know I see a lot of residents here that have been hanging in all evening. It's late already. And so I know there's a lot of comments from the residents that are in the area. So I'll invite each of you up as well as online to make their comments before we conclude. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Rob Lewis. I am the attorney for the applicant from Captain Stewart, represent Hightop Development. I will do my best to be brief. I know we have a number of familiar faces that I'm sure want to speak this evening. I'm sure the board has looked at its packet and got some thoughts to share. I'm sure you have also heard by now that we presented the sketch plan at the planning commission meeting a couple of weeks ago. The reception, quite honestly, wasn't what we had hoped. There's no way to sugarcoat that. We received a lot of constructive feedback, from the planning commission members. And a lot of what I would do, mostly negative, feedback from the community. Those are just simple facts of, how it was. It was I'd say, a very pleasant meeting. Nobody was angry, yelling and screaming, which I have certainly experienced, in many municipalities. So I do want to thank everybody. I think everybody was respectful of each other, and we certainly appreciated, that feedback. The long and the short of it is we do still believe in this plan, to redevelop the site. The property is currently in full condition. The office building is outdated. It is nearly vacant, and heading towards complete vacancy if something is not done. I spoke a little bit at the planning commission about the current, office, market. I'm guessing the commissioners are very well aware of the challenges in the commercial office market at this point in time. So I won't belabor that point, but we just don't see this property being redeveloped, with office tenancies. The investment isn't there. Many office buildings are on the way to being torn down. This one may not be that far behind if it's not us redeveloping. So the office market, cool. Before abandoning though, our plan, that we had, and really looking at what other options there may be, we wanted to come in front of the commissioners. We wanted to hear from you, have a chance to hear your feedback, maybe even hear your ideas, and what you have thought about this site. I can't believe that this would be the first time, that you've given some thought to this site. Very briefly, for anybody that maybe wasn't here at the planning commission, I will just mention the concept here. The site is about 2.15 acres, located at the corner of Pike and County Line Roads. Currently has access, limited access to either one, right in, right out only on County Line Road. Technically full access to Pike, which is during rush hour a challenge, making a number of the turns. Currently improved with a 30,000 square foot office building that at one point also had a bank branch in it, so there is an existing drive-through on that building. We mentioned the condition of the current state. Most people are aware this intersection is a subject of current development. Happens to be in Bucks County, happens to be in Upper South, but this intersection is going to significantly change with development across the street with a Wawa going in. That's going to necessitate changes to the entire intersection, and it's going to impact this site. Our current proposal is for two buildings, to demolish the existing building, and would be to construct two buildings. The first would be about 9,000 square feet, likely to be multiple tenants. We're currently trying to show an end cap user that could be either a bank or a restaurant that would have a drive-through associated with it, and then separately about a 2,000 square foot pad that would also have a drive-through. That's what's on the plan currently. That's what we have gotten feedback from your consultants on, and certainly I think what is driving our neighbors to come out and give us their thoughts. So that's what we have put on plan. We believe it is appropriate for the site. We believe we can buffer it, but we understand the challenges, and we're here to hear from the commissioner.
Thank you. And I think, probably the next best thing to do is just kind of go around to each of the groups as we do the planning commission. So I think you can kind of walk us through your memo and concerns and discussion.
Dennis, I'd be happy to. Yes, thank you. I think at the planning commission, I challenged our board members to not look at the plan. The plan is a concept and try to convey an idea, but rather talk about, their job as community planners. If indeed we believe that this office building is no longer viable in its current configuration, and is to become blighted, that's certainly something that I think we need to deal with as a community. So challenge the plan. What would we see going here as an alternative to an office building? Is there something else, some other use of this property that might be appropriate? And as we look at these uses of this property, I gave some highlight points. We understand the congestion at this intersection. We understand that significant improvements are needed at this intersection.
We again talked about a bit the Wawa going in on the corner in Upper Southampton Township, that northeast corner of Huntingdon Pike and County Line Road. But all weighing that against our adjacent residents. You know, when we're talking about fast food restaurants, we're talking about things like odors and trash and dumpsters and traffic and circulation patterns, pedestrian connections, all of those things. I describe as kind of an intensity of land use. So an office building, certainly on the weekends, is a very low intensity of land use. When we talk about retail, we talk about fast food especially, you know, the weekend time frame becomes a much more intense use of the property at longer durations into the evening. And so we got to be cognizant of those things that we look at this property, at this location, given the close proximity of the residential single-family home development of Sheffield Drive. And so those are the kind of things that we talked about at the Planning Commission. We are all aware of the difficulties of that location. We understand the impacts on our neighbors. So what is it that we could foresee this property being used for? Was kind of the conversation the Planning Commission batted back and forth a bit. I don't know that we had any great ideas come out of the Planning Commission. I think it was something that, again, a new concept that deserves more deliberation rather than kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And so I'm hopeful that our planners will be thinking about this as they have time to drive through the intersection and look at other development in the area. And I think that's one of the similar challenges that faces the Board of Commissioners tonight. You know, I don't know that we're going to say, oh, this is a great plan, Mr. Willis, let's bring it in. But if this is not the plan, what is it that we think we can see here? That was my impression as I reviewed the applicant.
Did you want to talk at all about how it's zoned right now and?
Oh, I can. Yeah. Jen, that's a good idea.
Get that out there.
Yeah, so the property is interestingly enough, zone business office institutional. That office building pre-existed our more recent zoning code rewrite and map amendments. So I believe that property was zoned as business office because of the use that pre-existed the zoning rewrite. So rather than try and, you know, create some kind of non-conforming condition, I think the zoning code writers acknowledged the use of the property that was there and put in protocols to set limits to that development. But I don't know that when we rewrote the zoning ordinance, we really thought too much about a redevelopment of the property. You know, 15 years ago, whenever it was, we rewrote the ordinance. That office building was a viable entity. And I think COVID changed a lot of the things that we look at as far as community planning.
If I could, Commissioner Mueller, if I can just to tap into what Tim had said. We certainly took the feedback from the Planning Commission and the residents to heart. And we've actually spent the last several weeks looking at this plan. And so I think it's important for the commissioners to know, we're not just resting on the laurel saying, you know, it's this or nothing. But I think the advice I got, which is clearly helpful, was let's stay with the plan that we have tonight. And let's get some feedback. And before you come back showing any kind of changes, whatever those changes may be, let's at least get the feedback from the commissioner. So I hope you understand that. That is certainly, I'm not standing here saying, you know, it's this or it's nothing. 100% agree that there's certainly changes going to be made, but before we did that and invested the time and energy into that process, we wanted to hear.
Well, this is the process of the schedule review, right? So the idea is that we want to, you know, throw some ideas out there and for you to hear from the Planning Commission, hear from the board, hear from the residents, on, you know, if you guys want to, do we have anybody from two or? Yeah.
So our memo mimics or agrees with everything that Tim just said. And our letter also talks about the concern of how the project moves forward, because the uses that are proposed aren't allowed at all in the zoning that exists. So would you be looking to rezone the property? And what we would want would be have the applicant come up with a plan. Would they want to rezone the property or come up with some sort of text amendment which would allow different uses within the zone that it's in? But we want to make sure that whatever the use is that's proposed, given that 99% of everything surrounding it is residential, that it is very sensitive to the fact that it truly is in a very residential area. That pedestrians are taken into account, traffic is taken into account, noise is taken into account. And we would encourage you to look at the other uses that are allowed in the zone to see if maybe one of them would fit, a medical office, a daycare center, something else that might fit that may not have been partly as impacted as bad through COVID. Or if there's another zoning that you could place there that would make sense. But we would want you to look at what your path forward would be and propose how you would get from where you are now, so.
And maybe Sue, could you maybe just articulate a little bit, just for everyone's benefit here, on the uses that are permitted there, just the.
It's basically banking uses, office uses, institutional, crop production. Well, I think that's in every single zone that is part of my now.
Yeah, that's not a random thing.
I think that has to be in everything. Yeah. 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 Medical office, libraries, it's really was very much catered to what exists there. There's a lot about the financial institutions and a lot about office spaces, real estate services, testing laboratories, professional scientific offices, administrative support, educational services, doctor's offices, clinics, rehab facilities excluding drug rehab, nursing facilities, daycare centers, adult daycare centers, child facilities. So was very much catered to what exists there, which is the financial industry and the office industry. But there are other uses. And then there are other zones that are non-residential that have uses that might be appropriate, but if they want to stay within the zoning, they're going to have to come up with a plan to either use a different use or to figure out how to do some sort of text amendment that would allow the use by conditional use or by special exception, or however you would want to move forward. But these uses are definitely not allowed. And if you read the sort of the definition of how this the zoning was set up, it doesn't really meet the intent of how the zoning is. So.
And that was something that was certainly put on the table at the planning commission, that this is a legislative decision. This is not something that we can go to the zoning hearing board and try and resolve. What we see as the only viable uses here do not fit within the existing zoning. It's not a simple matter of going and getting a variance to try and adaptively reuse that building. And I think Tim actually made that comment in Bruce here, was that that's why the board of commissioners input is so vital here, because this really comes down to a legislative decision, what you see with that.
Comments about traffic or?
Sure, I think, everybody probably knows what the traffic concerns are. At this location, from a big picture perspective, we tried to address that in our letter. In this sketch plan phase, because there's not a lot of details or information to review at this point, just customary with this phase. So I'll kind of break it up into three, just to summarize quickly. One, can the existing driveways to the site accommodate the proposed uses in a safe and efficient manner? And if not, can it be improved to operate safe and efficiently? And if that can't be achieved through improvements to the intensity or the types of uses need to be reconsidered. What's the impact of the nearby intersections? The obvious ones, County Line Road and Huntingdon Pike, but is there any other impacts at other nearby adjacent intersections? What should we the site frontages? And then the third, in particular, because of what's shown on the sketch plan at this point, is can the internal circulation for the site work efficiently where it's not going to have spill out effects onto either County Line Road or Huntingdon Pike? So drive-through uses are considered further. We have to carefully evaluate that to make sure, particularly with two drive-through uses on the same site, whether they can operate together efficiently, and a lot of times that comes down to what are the specific providers being proposed for the site, because nowadays, whether it's drive-through restaurants, coffee, they all have their own unique characteristics in terms of trip generation, queuing into drive-through lane, all those type of things. So it would have to be carefully evaluated in terms of types of uses. Tim touched on it earlier. Drive-through uses will have more of an impact on weekends compared to obviously the use that's there now, but also potentially other types of retail or commercial uses.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
I'll speak with my ward.
Yeah.
This is my ward. I represent Ward 6, and that is my ward. I lived in Ward 6 for 4 years. My husband grew up in the ward. We're generational. I've been first a committee person, and then a commissioner again, 20 years, over 20 years, 2 decades. My residents know that I care about the big thing. This is unique in that the site borders on both sides right up to 2 residential properties, and in the rear to a very nice single-family residential development. I've worked with the residents when it's a bank. We're burning trash, the dumpster noises, whether they're picking up at 5 in the morning, any kind of issues or problems with trees. This proposal I am not in favor of at all. It's extremely aggressive for this property. And I'm not in favor of it at all. I think it would not be good for the residents in my development, which is out Gal, or across the street of one, for a whole host of reasons. Lights, noise, traffic, it's everything, smell, trash, and the lights. Just the farm development is right there on the corner. Those homes, it would affect them also, which is Ward 5. Traffic getting in and out. Their quality of life would change greatly. And it means a lot to me, not just for my ward and my development, but for the township as a whole. There are a whole host of uses that in the business office, institutional. I mean, I'm looking at one, veterinary services, anything with pets or dogs or animals. It would be an absolute win. Whether it's going to daycare or getting veterinary vets in there. Everybody are animal lovers. Educational services, tutors. I know my husband's looking for office space, and I have never seen a sign at that building for any kind of office, any office space, opening for office space in that building. So I've never seen the owners reach out for any space that's open. And I understand you say it's in disrepair, but taking the community, whether it's just a farm or Avondale, these 2 developments into consideration, I do think way back when it was built, the building's placed in a certain area, as it is right now, away from the homes and in that position for a reason. So it doesn't impact the residents. So with that being said, I think you have to keep that in mind when you're trying to develop. So with this being said, it's a severely congested area. the Wawa coming across the street, that's gonna be an additional impact for the residents. And I'm taking your, what you wanna do into consideration too. You wanna develop, that piece, and I know you don't like to, go into disrepair, and I don't wanna see that corner look horrible also. But at the same time, I think there's something that, you can do, you can work with, the township and the residents to come together, and it can be a win-win for everybody. Well, good luck. I don't know, I think that's for them to figure out, and I.
How about the poor people that live in that area?
Try to.
That's what I'm trying, I agree.
Try to work within the zoning, or try to bring us something. Try to bring us something that would really be good for the residents. A nice buffer, because right now the parking lots are right next to my residents' homes, and I like that, to not be like that. They basically have asphalt right up and a fence, and I'd like to see a nice, nice buffer for them, and some nice trees, so they don't see parking lot, so they don't see whatever you're gonna build. I mean, and something that's not, I would not like to see drive-through. I would not like to see fast food. That's my opinion. To me, that's not what I'm saying. We are a unique, small town. And that's it. I'm gonna leave it up to the rest of my. Yeah, it's something that isn't open all night. Hours that are, closed, nothing past 9 or 9:30. At night, because the communities around there need to have a certain problem, taking into consideration its residential uses. So that's it, finally.
Thank you.
I agree with you. That's gonna have to be-
No, so the good news is at first glance, I thought it was a couple swimming pools and apartment complex. At first, that's honestly what I thought it was, before I read the description in detail. I thought, good to get, there's no school kids involved. The bad news is, it's a residential area and traffic is horrific. We know Wawa coming in, the fact of the matter, they're not gonna approve lower one side of making it double wide, the traffic flow is congested. It's a bad area for traffic as it is. Drive-throughs would be horrible in that area. I think with bottlenecking, whether the Chick-fil-A, you see that traffic there, you forget about trying to get out of there, which is kill the idea, but it's a shame. This isn't in like the Lura area. I mean, I'd love to get businesses here and get earned income tax to relieve their residents of, absorbing all the costs themselves. We don't have a box stores to get a lot of earned income tax from, and it would be great if we could. So I would love something to develop there. It's just thinking the right thing that is suitable and respectful of the lost residents in that area. What that is, I don't have a magic wand to wave and say, here it is, but.
Have you guys done research that led you to this being the best option, or is there still, what's just the first option?
Not the first option, by any means. My clients are very experienced, commercial real estate developers. They've looked at this site, for a number of different users. One thing to point out, is that when they went out to see, there's different brokers for different types of uses. They actually went out initially, and contacted the brokers that they utilize for medical office space. The brokers would not even take the property on as something to look at, because they saw no possibility of getting the interest. The medical brokers weren't even willing to spend their time on the site. And it's only one use, but I just wanted to point that out, that there had been work behind the scenes that is done before we ever even put this sketch on the plan, and there's continuing work moving forward. So, it is a very challenging site because of our neighbors. we have,
You live there?
yes, I live in Huntingdon Valley, thank you very
You
much.
live here, close to there?
So
Sorry,
immediately
sorry,
across,
sorry.
immediately across the street,
Public
we're gonna
comment.
have one of the,
Greg, keep going, but public comment will happen later.
you're gonna have one of the
No,
most
no,
high
no,
intense
no.
uses, land use that there is in terms of with the Wawa across the street. And then you have what is supposed to be our ideal land use, single family residential mature community. And this property is separated between. So it is a challenge. You top that off with the traffic problems that we know exist there. So we are looking at everything, at this site to try and figure out a way to make it work.
How long are they in it?
My clients are equitable, so it's under agreement of sale right now on the fund. We are not the legal owners yet. The current owner of the property, it was Prudential property for,
Yeah, it's owned by.
now, that over a lot of, Prudential's, assets. So that's why I have nothing to do with what was done in the past in terms of advertising their office space for sale or anything like that. My client is simply the equitable owner, has been for 4 months now doing their due diligence.
Would they consider any, residential? 55 and older, any kind of?
I'm glad you clarified that because we should straight. Yes, I mean, we would consider residential. I'm not sure about age restricted residential, but certainly, but that is always been a pretty tough subject in township.
Yeah, townhomes for 55 and older.
And
I would be interested in that.
And to me, townhomes are really the perfect transitional use between single family and commercial. So, it's certainly something we are willing to take a look at and put on paper and see what we can do. One of the number of different districts that exist now that permit townhome uses subject to restrictions that I assume you have vetted. So it's something we can take one of your existing districts and say, okay, if this was zoned RM3, what could happen? Something like that. We can certainly take a look at that. We'd be happy to.
So I'm in agreement with some of these, most of the other board, I'm really against the drive-through or anything that's gonna produce that type of noise of traffic, running directly with extension. I think that said, medical office complex, anything, something of that nature where it's used in 5, but there's gonna be low impact on the community and surrounding neighborhood, makes sense. With that being said, I have nothing else to add at this time.
Any other comments from the board? I'm gonna reserve my comments to the meeting, but I know there's a lot of residents here, and I would ask that I'll invite you up, state your name and address. And if there's comments that are made that are similar to other comments in the interest of time, and certainly absolutely no disrespect to anybody here, maybe you could just say, hey, I kind of agree with this, these are the comments, so you can get on record. But in the interest of just keeping things moving, let's try to be brief and something that's already been said. So with that, yep, come on up.
All right. Rick Goldman, 3940 Sheffield Drive. So agree with everything that the commissioners have said, the impact it will have, but also just want to add a couple of bits of information that wasn't discussed. Understand what you're saying about the office building space, what's going on right now. There's other issues, there's interest rates, that really killed the commercial offices. COVID, things are coming back, rates are hopefully coming down. I believe there will start being some investment back in commercial space. That's one person's opinion, that's the only, that's not going to be able for that use. But I just want to mention between the building, and I live right next to it, right next door. My driveway is right next to the parking lot. Between that corner all the way up to the shopping center where Robin Hood Restaurant is, there is roughly 64 retail stores. Okay, right now, and I know the Wawa is coming, but right now you have an empty TD Bank, an empty Rite Aid, and an old Wendy's, which is roughly about 3 plus or minus acres per the sign that's up there right now across from Goldstein. That's been empty at least 5 years. Of those 64 other retail in the 4 or 5 centers, you have about 12 of them are empty. That's about 19%. So if you're looking at 4, 5, or 6 additional retail or fast food, that you're gonna still look at a 20%. Vacancy rate, if you look at what's going on right now, and we're constantly changing over. So, just wanted to mention those couple things. Also, by the way, there's a new Dunkin' Donuts that used to be a Taco Bell that was empty for about 5 or 6 years. Now that Dunkin' Donuts is going to be empty as well on the corner, Knowles and Second Street. So again, just as far as the usage, agree, don't want, oh, by the way, for the first time in 25 years, I went to that building today. I didn't go into the offices. Okay, it's not updated, it's not dilapidated. If I tell you, I live right next door to there for the past couple of years, it's been the best it's been maintained from a maintenance, the landscaping. A couple of years ago, a whole new HVAC system. Last 2 weeks ago, a new hot water heater was put in because it was out by the trash dumpster, the old one. So from a maintenance perspective, right now, whether it's Fulton Bank, whoever, the maintenance they're doing, the outside is better than it's been ever before. So thank you for.
Thank you.
Sorry. Again, Paul Burns, and Pike. I just want to say that I agree with Denise. I agree with him. It is the worst idea that you guys can consider. A daycare would be great. Nobody's mentioned the fact that, because I do it. If I can't get down to Pike, I'll go on to the other side to get over to Bethayres Road. How many cars are going to be coming in our neighborhood? We now have all these young children coming back in. I grew up here, I'm 60. I used to remember, I don't know if you guys remember the 7-Eleven was there before the Saturday, was another convenience store. Yeah, and how many children here are going to hop the fence to go there, which they're kids. They're supposed to do that. But the traffic coming in, the rats that will be there from the dumpsters, the smells of everything. Fast food is not needed anymore. We're trying to get out there. We have McDonald's, we have Wendy's, we have everything here. To put something like that here is absolutely ridiculous. An office building, like I said, a daycare, 9 to 5 is the best thing, but watch the traffic, and I definitely agree with the fence. It's hard. I walk my dogs there every day, and I'm always picking up trash. People are throwing their bottles there. People are, are doing it. My dog picks up bottles everywhere she goes. So, she's helping, but it's ridiculous to even think that this would be. And the police, you're going to be following kids everywhere. Look at the dollar store out there. Southampton's always there because of, they're smashing stuff, they're doing stuff. Kids are kids, they're just not kids the way they used to be kids. They have their own agenda and they don't get punished anymore. So again, a lot more for you guys to handle too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, Ellen Cohen. Yeah, and I live on Martell Lane. I agree with everything you said. I'm already yelling at cars that are going down that street because they don't want to sit in the traffic. So they're not going down Warfield and they're trying to do the that's why we Warfield to get out to County Line Road. I thought it was a pool too, so thank you for saying that. But it's not a pool. So I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, that our township was zoned, there's no fast food in the township.
This is not zoned for what they're asking. So that would require quite a big hurdle in order to get to where they would need to go. So.
Specifics of that probably goes back to a conversation 10 years ago about drive-through in certain zoning districts.
Right, right now, if you go to CVS, where they put the Wawa, between the Wawa and the CVS, they put the Wendy's in there, you're taking your life in your hands trying to get out of that parking lot. So anybody that goes there knows that. But also, one quick thing, did I hear you say doggy daycare for going there?
No, I do. It's that veterinary services. So I said anything with dogs. We're all dog lovers.
Right, that's right. All right, that was all I needed to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was already getting planned.
Yeah. Right, we could open that up, right? So you could if they would, right?
Stay play on Pioneer Drive.
Right. There's so many people that love dogs, or even a doggy shop.
Good evening, Brian Racklin, 979 Sheffield Lane. I don't know what all the discussion's about because it's not zoned as a fast food. I can't take my house and turn it into an auto mechanic shop if I wanted to. I can't put a swimming pool in my front yard. I can't abuse the impervious ratio of my property and build more structures on it than I'm allowed. That looks like there's no impervious, ratio going on there. Right now, there are some grass and trees. And I'm here to support my neighbors. I'm about 5 or 6 houses down from there. But I can't imagine being on the neighboring properties on both sides and having like a Burger King or something like that. It smells, deliveries. So I get what your client's looking to do. They're looking at, oh, wow, there's an intersection. There's a million cars that go by there every day. Let's put something in there that'll make money. I think you ought to advise them that they're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I mean, it's a residential setting and it's just completely wrong use. There's zoning laws in effect. That's what it's zoned for. And I think you need to stay within that purview of what it is already zoned for. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Sean Goldman and I'm at 39 Sheffield Drive. I agree with everybody with what's been said. I would hate for the integrity of the neighborhood to be compromised. And I think we all live in this area. There was a reason why we picked it. I happen to live next door. I understand that that's where I bought. I'm not opposed to it being something that it's currently zoned for. I just cannot see or agree with any kind of fast food or restaurant in that matter at all, because the success rate, as we know, what restaurants are, any retail period, could be questionable. We don't want to see any more empty buildings, certainly not building more buildings on the space for that potential to happen. So I'm all for, progression and, but I think we need to keep the integrity and keep in mind, the residents that.
Thank you. Please.
We'd love to do the first one.
Oh, gosh. I'm zoning the Rosenthal 3926 Full Circle. And I did speak at the first meeting that we had a couple weeks ago. And as I said, if I were hurt of the Eagles, I could throw a football from my house to that building. And then my husband and I are probably some of the older people in Abigail. And so from my senior aspect, now that I am old, I go to doctors quite frequently. And I can say every one of them that I can think of is in an office building. Also, our accountant is in an office building, our attorney, dentist. So there's always people that need office space, and if this, that's what you say, we have not seen any signs out to try and market the place. So maybe they're not trying too hard, they just want to sell it. But, that's understandable too. So we have a train that goes over County Line Road. It's about a mile away, you know what I'm talking about. So that's maybe a couple of times a day, but that's a long distance and I can hear it. And, it doesn't bother me, anymore. I've been there so long, but it's rare that they crosses there. But the thought of having noise so close, it would be all the time if what they want to build there. It would be from early day, well, depending on what they would build. But even till 9 o'clock, it would be too late for us to hear noise, because when I go home, you won't hear a sound, even from Huntingdon Pike. That's how quiet it is. So to have noise, even as I said, at 9 o'clock at night would be an annoyance that we would hear it. And I I love living in Lower Moreland. I don't mind paying the school taxes, even though my kids have been to school for many years, because I love the area. We love our home. My two sons are so mad at us because we won't move. They want us to go to Ann's Choice. But we're so happy in our house. And I don't know all my neighbors intimately, but everybody, there's no arguing amongst neighbors. Everybody seems to be considerate of everybody. You know, there's not noise, or everybody takes care of their properties, and it's just a nice place to live. And I don't know how much longer I'll live there. I say they'll have to carry me out. But I don't want to, I don't want to have to move because of noise and dirt and trash and traffic. That's not why we chose to live there. So, as I say, I'm probably repeating some of the things I already said. I just want everybody to hear it again. And we're just so happy. I mean, I love Lower Moreland. I really do. And I feel, when you say Huntingdon Valley, I feel like it's not just Lower Moreland, it's Bethayres, it's Bethayres, it's every place around. I consider every place Huntingdon Valley or the different little areas. And I've never had a problem. I love the police, as I've already said. Any time I come in contact, they're like friends. I don't mean I go out to dinner with them. But that's so nice, maybe because I'm a solar-abiding citizen, but I think most of the people in Lower Moreland are. So I just think it would absolutely change everything if this were to pass. We have, as I say, we're in our house 54 years, and I loved every day being there. In fact, maybe you notice I'm wearing a brace. I was out of my house for 2 months at a rehab after spinal surgery. I was so happy to come home again to a quiet, nice neighborhood where I could sleep through the night. So I don't want it to change for me or any of our neighbors.
Thank you.
One other thing, and I had mentioned it before, at one point, since I've been there so long, I remember when they wanted to build a Glory Day Tower on that corner of Just a Farm. It's directly across the street. Well, do you remember, you're shaking your head. Did you know about that? Those residents bought it and they were not allowed to build it. And the builder was able to build homes in that spot and sell them. And probably if our builder, our original Cutler, he probably could have sold homes if he was afraid he wouldn't be able to sell homes if he built them in that spot. But he probably would have been able to too, because people buy homes anywhere, if they like it.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public here?
I love the firemen. I have years ago, we had one incident. It turned out to be nothing, but they came, I was so embarrassed, we're in the cul-de-sac. 3 fire trucks came, the emergency, the ambulance, and we didn't. Well, what happened was I turned, I don't want you to think it was a big one. I turned on my self-cleaning oven and I forgot and I left a pan in there that had grease in it. And put on fire and it was shooting flames. Eventually, in no time, it went out because it had no oxygen. So I didn't. 3 fire engines came and the ambulance. But you know, they were so sweet about it, it got so ridiculous. But they came in and they brought the big fans in because there was smoke in the house.
We appreciate you.
Hey, there you go.
We have other people want to speak.
I've been here so long, I have so many stories.
Thank you.
September 10th, next month's meeting.
Just to remind everybody, there's 3 limit minutes. 3 minutes.
I'll be pretty brief. Much of what was already said. My name's Evan Gordon, 1063 Sheffield Lane, directly adjacent to the sketch here. I just want to put on record that our residents is also against this proposal and the rezoning. I think any type of rezoning would make this use a lot more aggressive and make me feel less safe. So I just want to put that on record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the public here?
Evan Swiker, 965 Sheffield Lane. Easy one, I know.
That's okay, you got it.
I'm pretty second. 965 Sheffield Lane, I'm right down the street, so I'm gonna talk about traffic and traffic on Huntingdon Pike, it's already real bad, but I mean, even just on the way here, there's about 3 to 4 hours a day where traffic back all the way up past Barneswell, so trying to pull out off Barneswell onto Huntingdon Pike coming this direction. You're inching out, if they leave you a gap, you're inching out, you're kind of, and hoping that no one's flying down the other way. I mean, it's completely unsafe, and now it's already, we already take Sheffield Drive all the way down to the next way out.
Right drive.
Is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We should be getting on main roads, not driving traffic. So it's already happening. We're just gonna go from 3 hours of it a day to 9, 12 hours of the day. So just, there's a lot of other driving patterns you consider rather than just something.
Thank you. Anyone?
Speaking of which, you mentioned that.
Please state your name.
Oh, sorry, Sylvia Pelta, I live in Barnesville, Maine also, and I was wondering if you could put some kind of a sign up there that says, please do not block the street. The intersection. That would help us a lot getting out and getting in.
Any other?
Good idea.
Yeah, it's good. So it's kind of coming out.
Okay, all right, so I'll just make some final.
Open up to online first.
Yeah, everyone knows. No comments. So just to conclude, I appreciate you listening to everybody, and I appreciate all the residents and those who know about it. I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to see what you're proposing there either for all the reasons. You know, when I look at these kind of things, I look at the impact to the neighborhood. I look at traffic. Traffic is already something that is very difficult in Lower Moreland on many of the roads. And then the growing road is County Line Road. We can't control what's happening on the other side, but we have this piece of property that's all back motor. So that's my first thought. My second thought is, you know, that's the entrance to Lower Moreland Township, and I certainly don't want to see a building that falls in disarray. And I would want to see something there that would be a value add to the community. You know, I think we've talked about, you know, office space, and I trust that your client has done the market research and they've come up with, and they've vetted some things, and they saw what is there. From a zoning standpoint, you know, there's what's allowed within the zoning, and it sounds like what the residents have said is that's what they would like to see. It's what we probably like to see here on the board. That being said, I think there are some things that some comments maybe about age restricted, if that was something. And again, I'm open to exploring something like an office building that might have something fast food, drive-through. I'm gonna be against. I think everybody on the board is against it. I think the residents are against it. I think trying to balance something that would be around impact to the neighborhood, the hours, the noise, the lights, the traffic patterns that are coming in, that you would have to balance those. I'm not sure what that would be, but you know, I know there's another office space and restaurant that's down the road on Byberry. There's a restaurant there in Loglia that's right in the neighborhood. I've talked to the residents in that neighborhood to understand what kind of impact that restaurant has with the neighborhood, and it's very little. They also have some offices there. So I think what you're proposing, I think we're against. But I would open the door a little bit to say, like, okay, you have some uses that's permitted within the zoning. There's some things that have been said tonight that maybe we could explore, but you would have to consider all the things that people people voiced tonight around traffic, around impact of the surrounding neighborhood, because we do have residents that are literally right up against that property, so we would have to consider that and the impact to them and soft things like traffic, like noise, like people trying to get there, cut through their property to get to that property, and they're all things that we would have to consider, so. I think what you're proposing, it's not zoned for that, so it's gonna be a hard no for what it is from my standpoint. If there's any other comments, otherwise I just conclude this conversation. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I don't.
I don't know if it's appropriate. I just want to thank you all for having the residents' best interest at heart. It's really wonderful to see and feel. Thank you. You're welcome.
If we want to just take a minute, let people leave if they want to leave or.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
I'd be happy to sit in my chair for 3 hours. Sorry to do that to you. Just think you could have said Intel. So
I was just gonna run up and say,
Go.
can it be a gym?
go tackle
Can
the
the property
attorney.
be a gym? What?
Go tell them AKA wants it. Go
What's the
get
gym?
them. Go get them.
Actually, Ken knows them, they grew up together. Ken.
Ken had probably also worked on development. Capital's different days.
Yeah, so I would return to the room, let him walk him out, so he didn't get jumped on the way out.
Good to see you. Now should we set up a boxing match while you guys are? Sure.
I'm going out.
We might still. Yeah, we're really showing it.
Yeah, we're usually like that in an hour. I'll talk to you.
Oh, yeah, very possible.
I think it's.
It's just attention.
Yes, the public works director, like a baffle on that or something.
Go.
Hey, public works.
Directed towards the audience. Because I don't. Outside of the extension, we'll have that next month. So I'll reach out. Thanks so much for.
We're all in this together.
So, can we turn off the air? I think, it's coming, it's keeping you guys become.
We'll have to propose a trail. That's time.
I've never felt one.
I would have to build like behind.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. To like make that a viable project. Like for what else might also get an MPP.
We're ready. We're ready to do it. We're ready.
Yeah, everybody, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. The next item on my agenda is to review the extension, or review the extension, the review period for BEP Philmont, that's 3001 Philmont Avenue. BET is not ready to make their final presentation, and they've granted us an extension, so I don't think there's anything more to discuss than to say that they granted the extension and they'll present next month.
Just to clarify, are we granting them an extension or they?
No.
They gave us.
They're grading us.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Because if you did nothing and we didn't get that letter, there would be a deemed approved, so, okay.
Gotcha.
There's no action by the board. We just need to make sure we get.
Yep. The building officials reported.
Hello. We had 112 permits, 118 inspections, and Artist Senior Living hopefully will be back up maybe in the next month. All the outlets blew, air conditioner, water heaters, their appliances, so they have to go through, do all the electric and then get all the appliances, the painting, carpets, all of that.
Was it a drop phase or was it a backfeed? I mean,
Backfeed. Yeah.
Surge.
And it just went.
And what's the approximate cost? Do we have an estimate on it now?
Apparently, they have money. So I guess the insurance company, because they've already put a lot of money out, and I was actually, it's good because they're really concerned about their residents and they really want to get them back in there. But I think the insurance, the person that we spoke to was not worried about money. He's like, we're just gonna get it fixed. We're gonna have to do it, and he's trying to get them in there as quickly as possible. So
Yeah.
Well,
that was it.
That's good.
thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on my agenda is headed back, Ecological Restoration Trust for my liaison report. And as a reminder, in the end of June, they purchased the June Fate Fairground, so that brings our total acreage up to almost 1,000 acres. It's 956 acres. A couple things that are going on. There's a full moon hayride on October 19th, which I think is a fun thing they said. And a couple other things that are going on. There are some new trailheads that will be put in September. Some new signs for wayfinding in October and November, pending some approvals from the other townships. And then that's it. So there was no meeting this month. So that concludes the liaison report. Back to you.
The Penny Pack, the purple,
Yes.
were they the ones that got the approval for that temporary sign on Terwood Road?
Yes, yeah, it was on for the open space.
Why does that have to be temporary? I kind of like the sign, if it drove by, I think that looks pretty cool.
Which ones are you talking?
There's a bunch of signs. On Terwood Road.
Well, there's one that's like a permit that says like the McAfee family.
Yeah.
That's
This is kind of like the size of the picture. I don't know, it looked cool. I'm like.
But was it a
should know that on the right hand.
The
right hand side.
One on the right hand side coming towards Walsh is perfect.
That's permanent?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that sign.
Yeah.
I drove past it, I'm like, that looks kind of cool. That's all I have.
That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Maybe you want to run a separate.
As I go to my agenda, first item on my agenda is review and consider the minutes of July 9th, 2024. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the minutes of July 9th, 2024? No.
No, motion to approve. No.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of July 9th, 2024.
Second.
Motion was moved and second to approve the minutes of July 9th, 2024. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. No opposed? The ayes have it, motion's passed. Review and consider the August 2024 bill list. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the August 2024 bill list?
I actually sent my list to Manager Hoffman,
Okay.
and he answered all my questions.
Okay, great, great. Does anyone else from the public have any questions or comments regarding the August 2024 bill list that is out there? Anyone? Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the August 2024 bill list.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the August 2024 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed. The motion passed. Next, administration report, Manager Hoffman.
So just two items. The first that I wanted to call out is just something that will be on your next financial report in September. I had noted in a previous monthly report, we were splitting the cost with the library to replace the lights in the community room. Those original fixtures you cannot get new bulbs for. So one by one, as they were going out, the room was getting darker. So we'll have about $66,750 that we'll take out of the library capital reserve. And that will be on your next bill list, but I wanted to let you know that I had given the okay to proceed with that. And then the second one, Commissioner Pace, did we get some good news the other day?
Yeah, so a couple months ago with all the stormwater management and flood in Moreland Township, some residents talked about possibly getting some floodgates. So I reached out to State Rep Nancy Gent's office a few months ago, spoke to her over the phone, followed up with some emails. And yesterday they called in and told us that we were successful in about a $90,000 grant to get some floodgates put up in our
Awesome.
Thank you, Josh.
There you go.
Chuck, you have some comments?
Do we have the location for them floodgates?
Yeah, we'll, I guess, include them in the agenda packet next month. So the clarification for what these do, these are really going to be something that serve our emergency responders. So they're going to be like the last line of defense, somewhere where we would typically put the barricades as like the final line before the flooding, are what are now going to be the permanent floodgates. This is not going to address the concerns of Dale Road, Kirk, and High with when there is a closure and cars off of Route 63 turn into a local neighborhood. We will still continue to use the signage that we put out that advises of local traffic only. So this is specifically something to try to be that next tier of deterrence to prevent people from going into floodwaters.
Okay, so you'll have those locations for us at a later date.
Yes,
Thank you.
generally it's focused around Philmont, Red Lion. I think we have Heaton Road,
Okay.
a couple others.
So Chris, when you see fit, if there is a quality of life issue that is caused by the flooding, if you see fit in the near future, will you consider putting floodgates at the locations that we asked for our quality of life to improve during a flood situation?
I don't think that's my call.
Well, who's deciding the locations?
So the different questions here. So the locations were based off of Steve and Tim going around to look at the flood prone locations. This question has to do with the traffic going onto Dale Road. When there's a closure that causes people to have to divert off of Route 63. So at this point, we did not put in that grant. And I think Chuck, when you had given Steve a call, he explained this.
Yeah, he did.
So at this point, as on the staff level, I don't know that it's a realistic thing that we can advise full closures because the people who live there need to get onto their road if they are out at that time. So I think that's where the pairing of this is the signage plan that I shared with all of you after the last time we had this discussion that advises for local traffic only. I don't know how you provide that and also a full closure of the road entrance at the same time.
Is it fair to say that these floodgates will require less manpower, less resources at those locations, which could theoretically help support areas if there are times when you have to decide into.
I guess.
And I know that's more of an
So,
emergency.
say like Public Works would go out to
Safe.
put out, Public Works would go out to put out the barricades on the edge of road. Police, when they would determine that it was time to close it, would put them out. And sometimes some of the barricades would float away, some would be taken. So, but generally, the goal would be to be able to fully close a road.
And I think it would help because once they're down, they get locked.
Yeah, okay.
They
And
get
they're
locked
there,
in.
so somebody doesn't have to carry them around, you know,
Exactly.
wait for somebody.
It helps
All right.
that way.
Police
So,
are
yeah,
down.
When you're up,
Down.
Meetings are done, yeah.
Yeah, they get moved constantly when it floods and we wouldn't have to re-put them on.
Which is good, I mean, good for everybody, right, especially before I could do that.
Yeah.
So just moving forward, just so that the board knows, and when everything is all ironed out, should, for the board's reference, so that we know, the locations of the floodgates and if barricades are gonna be put up and signs that say local traffic only, just so that we know. Can that be sent to, well, I'm sure Commissioner Pace, because it's really.
I'll update what I
And
sent to you
Commissioner
previously
Kelly
with
and
the
the
new
board,
information.
so that we know and we're informed
Yes.
too. That would be so helpful to us. Thank you.
And I have nothing further to report.
Thank you.
Just another question. Tim, were you involved in this with the locations? You said?
Yes.
What was the reason not putting one at the top of the hill at Red Lion and Pine?
I guess agenda here.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
So, but the answer to that is, again, there's people who live on on Red Lion Road in the same way that you live on Dale Road. So the flood barricade, if you fully close the road and I live on Red Lion, how do you propose I get to my house once you've fully closed it?
Don't these gates only restrict one lane of traffic, not complete?
No, we're going all the way across.
All line around, they go all the way.
It's a complete.
They could go from 22 to
25. Yeah, I hear you, but some of the ones in Upper Moreland only do one lane. I was looking at them today when I was driving out there.
They don't pull out.
Oh, they pull.
Yeah, they go up to 50 feet.
So
All right.
the premise of what they went around to look at again was from an emergency responder perspective, what is that last point to prevent a car from going in so we don't need to send responding firefighters into the water to get people who've made a stupid decision. That's a fundamentally different thing than how you address the traffic concerns of when these roads do get closed. So as much as we would love to be able to close off the neighborhoods and Red Lion Road, I, as a staff member, I can't recommend you prevent people from getting to their homes.
So I think they're two different issues, right? So,
Definitively
right,
two
so,
different issues.
so there's the issue of last line of defense, which is we got some money to be able to do that. That's fantastic because that's less stuff that you're gonna have to put out, more stuff that you can do a lot easier. But I think to your point, there's still some work to be done to see how do we restrict traffic when people are dodging off of that road. Now they hit a barricade that they don't, show up when you're driving.
And you.
And that's
all-
a different problem.
And you all have a plan that I prepared back in March that shows exactly where those signs go at Pine and Red Lion, at Red Lion and Dale, at Red Lion and Kirk and Red Lion. So I'll update that to reflect that the barricades are gone, but it's still the same plan for the rest of the signs.
And then, right.
So my guys will still push barricades out on Dale Road with the new plan, whether there's gates or not.
Right.
With the sign, it's local traffic
Right,
only.
so
And
return
then
to Pine.
we should continue to explore other things, maybe. that
Right, and
can-
a big part of
Stop,
this
but we don't
is
wanna
that
close the road down.
at Red Lion and Pine, it would be nice to be able to provide like a greater closure to like really discourage people from going down there. But in the lane configuration, you need to let people out. So we can't close off the lane that is leaving. So it's just the lane essentially that is coming down towards Red Lion Road is the one where we're able to put the sign to close.
So we do block that with a barricade or?
Yes.
It's one of the big class 3 with stripes, big sign, road closed, flooding.
They still go around it.
And they still go right now.
And then we put a barricade at High Road, and then we put one at Kirk, and then we totally block off Dale Road.
Okay.
There's a big L at Dale and Red Line. So once you get there,
you have to turn around for the barricade. Right?
Can I just add to that? Flooding is one of the biggest issues, but I'm a veteran in the traffic, crisis. There's many things that, I've experienced. A railroad gate that's stuck or down, has decided to put people into our road. Handfuls of things that are above the flooding issue. So, for that reason, I'm disappointed that we're not getting any of the barriers. I think it was Chuck and I that kind of brought that subject up. And so we're now the last, that we didn't get them. So we didn't get them where we needed them. So, I'd like to consider, helping us out. We're still in an issue where if there's another disaster, in addition to the flooding, they're coming down our street.
That's not, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding what we're saying, because these barriers fully close the road and we can't fully close your road. And that's, I think, what I'm hearing. So there's a different kind of solution than what this solution is. Is that, am I
Right, and Mark's point is correct. We've had other reasons that have caused traffic disasters in town. And remembering that Red Lion Road is Route 63, not that anybody in this room chose that. There were other plans for where that was going to go, but that is Route 63. So when there's one of those other issues, Mr. DeGeorge is disappointed that we're not fully closing off access to his road. But what I've been saying is I don't know how we recommend a full closure of a road where people live.
Well, just to address that question, Chris. If I have to get out of my neighborhood, I can get out of my neighborhood with one of them barricaded off. That's a no-brainer. There's 3 or 4 other streets that are available to the internal neighborhood that people can use. If somebody decides to, for whatever reason that it's closed, whether it's either railroad crossing, an accident, lines down, flooding at the intersection, for whatever reason it is, we need some. It's a safety issue. We have speeding cars. The people that are coming down don't care about the stop sign. It's as simple as that. So, and there's been some accidents, all minor, but you know, I've seen it all.
Right, he's correct. There you can access from Lower Welsh Road and you can get out different ways. But if you're a different resident who is trying to access your home, our staff perspective is that we can't fully close one of the entrances to Delaware. We can put out the signs that we're describing, but we're not going to recommend.
Well, we haven't had a flood yet, okay, thank God, we dodged the bullet this last one. There were barricades up at the top of Red Lion and Dale, okay, our public works put them out, and they hadn't had it from us, so I did call Steve because they put one out. Now, if you go up to Dale Road.
That was the first time.
That was the first time.
This
Past time we had more out there.
Everyone's
Like,
informed.
there was deterrence there to stop cars from returning in. But it just takes one person to slide that barricade over, and that opens the floodgates, because then people go around the barricades at Red Lion and Pine, they come down. And when they see the barricade closed in Philmont Avenue, it's the first street they turn on is to Dale Road. Okay, and
But when we have it blocked off in an L there, I mean, unless they get out and move the barricade, you can't get through.
Right.
So you people can't get out, but we agreed that that's what we will block it off to.
No, we know
So
that.
if someone's coming down, they're gonna see the red beam at the bottom, it's gonna be blocked out. Whoever's coming down Red Line that went around is gonna have to turn around.
See what happens.
If they move the barricade, I mean, I would call the police because that's against the law.
Have we ever cited anybody for?
We multiple times,
Yeah.
we cite the people
Oh, yeah.
going around the barricade.
Yeah.
oftentimes they also get stuck and then have to get rescued too, after moving the barricades. It's both.
Again, the reason I brought up the barricades, Steve, to your point, you react when there's flooding.
No, because I was gonna say, to your point, when we've had the gate stuck, when we had the power line down there years ago, and the police requested it, we blocked it all.
Okay.
Every time you guys have called, when it is the gate down, the gate's been stuck, train accident, all that, I'll call guys in, we'll come out and we block off their road every time.
Okay.
We have done that before.
But don't you think if there was an existing railroad style, something that could be utilized quickly, unlocked by a police officer, rather than have, calling you and then you've got to get some, one of your guys out there. There's a huge time delay. While we're waiting for all of that, literally have hundreds of cars. They come down our street and it's a cul-de-sac. And it's a train of people following everybody else, and then they turn around and they come back flying back.
Gentlemen, thank you for your comments. We gotta move on to keep this meeting going.
This is a business meeting.
In other words.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next, Chris, anything else?
No.
Okay, thanks. I'll accept your report submitted. Jane Sale, our elected tax collector. Jane, would you like to, she's online, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You'd like to give us an update on your report, Jane? Hello. She's
Thank
still
you so
there.
much, Commissioner KURITZ. The face collections for the township taxes, we stand at 97.37%. The actual collections, which includes the discounts and penalties at this point, we stand at 95.60%. The balance due to the township for the taxes that are outstanding is $167,829, and the trash balance due to the township is $31,850. Collections are rather slow in August and September. Once the school taxes come due, some people will come in and pay, and then of course there's always the December 31st deadline. But they will get one more reminder notice the beginning of November prior to the penalty amount for school tax. And the letter will include any outstanding township taxes that are due. So hopefully we will continue to increase our collections.
Thanks so much, Jane. Does anyone from our board have any questions for tax collectors? Jane said. Anyone from the public or on Zoom? Thanks so much, Jane. I'll accept your report as submitted.
Welcome. Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Okay, next is my liaison report, and I'm going to keep this really, really short. My positions are Lower Moreland Township School District, Lower Moreland Township DEI Committee, and the community events. So, with the school district, I don't know if anybody noticed, but they, most importantly, is they're working on the PennDOT HOP work for the driveway, the high school access. So, this week, they began installing storm structures and completed the tie-in. The week of the 21st, they should be starting paving for the high school access driveway. They'll start on the 28th with some line striping, and then in September they should be complete, and the mast arm will be taken care of in October. Then with the Valley Center Park Drive access, they should be starting the curbing, if it's not already done, heading towards Philmont Avenue. And then the week of the 19th, they'll begin installing the storm structures and completing the tie-in. And on the 28th, they'll start with the paving. On the 30th of August, the line striping, and they should be completing September 2nd. So it all should be done before school starts. Again, the mast arm not be done until October with the lights and whatnot, but I will forward everything to everybody. I downloaded it, and you'll get it on your email. I'll get that to you so everyone knows what it looks like. I did attend their Zoom session, which was Tuesday, August 6th. It was the new superintendent, Dr. Best's first meeting. The next meeting is Tuesday, August 20th. Just some quick highlights was the strategic plan they went over will be from 2024 to 2029. So it needs to be reviewed by the new superintendent. And the stakeholders to make sure he's on board with it. And just another highlight is Mark McQuinn reported, and I'll send it to our board because I downloaded that for all of you, that the district was under the projected number of students registered for some of the grades for this time of the year. And they're going to keep monitoring this, and they're actually pleased about this because it's lower attendance numbers. So I'll send that to all of you. And then under the Lower Moreland Township School District DEI, Carla Cassetti, they're actually just getting, they hired someone to make like corn tortillas, Mexican culture class. So that's really cool for all the students. And also I learned that she is going back into private teaching. So I'm not sure what they're going to do because it's new superintendent, if they're going to fill that position. And we're a little sad about that, the whole committee, because we really liked her. So I'll inform the board, see what's going on. And just another thing that they're going to start the bus patrol program. So Chief Scarrato and new Chief Smith were very, they really worked with the school district, now Chief Smith, helping the school implement that program. That's starting on September 3rd. So if everybody realizes that's going to be wonderful for it equipped the school buses with the safety technology, including a stop arm enforcement camera to detect vehicles that illegally pass the school buses. And it's a huge safety initiative, and it's going to curb dangerous motorist behaviors. And it's going to be safer for the student riders. So it automatically tickets them, doesn't it?
It takes a video of it, sends it
video.
to an officer. We have to certify that they did in fact commit a violation, and then we submit the violation.
So it's amazing.
And it's a civil penalty.
Yep.
Civil penalty as opposed to like a point violation.
So, and it's a great program, and I thank you, and I thank Chief Scarrato. It took a while to implement, and it's now, every bus is equipped with these. Cool. So, there was a tie-up for a while, and then it's a great program. Thank you. So, and then under community events, I am just going to report the first event, which is in September, sponsored by the township, run by the Huntingdon Library, is our movie night Under the Stars. It's going to be Saturday, September 1st at 7 p.m. So bring blankets. Oh, yeah, Saturday, September 21st. Did I say that?
the first.
Oh, I'm sorry. September 21st at 7 p.m. So it's going to be great. It's the movie If 2024. It's going to be giant inflatable screen. Everyone's welcome, but children must be accompanied by an adult. And that concludes my agenda items for this evening. Next, the chair recognizes.
Well, can I ask one question?
Sure. Does anyone?
The township open house and the firehouse.
Well, I have all that,
But they're scheduled for Yom Kippur. I mean,
Oh.
the actual day of Yom Kippur.
Well, they changed it.
They did.
They did change it, sorry. I was trying to cut down on some of these events,
No, it's fine.
but they changed
All I
it
need to
to
know.
October 5th because of that route.
Okay, great.
So I'll send everybody all the events instead of the 12th. They changed it to October 5th now, just
Okay.
to let everybody know.
Because of that.
Because
Thank
of
you.
the Jewish holidays. But I figured I would
It's
cut
kind of a
down
big news.
on everything because
All
of
right,
our
thank you so
long
much.
agenda. The next, I'll recognize Commissioner HAUSEN, Chair of the Public Property Committee, but we do have all our fall events are in place, our trunk or treat and everything. And we even have an environmental workshop that Lee and I,
We're good.
we are good to go. Go, Ruth.
Okay, so the board has previously authorized purchasing of pump at the Bethayres pump station. We have been able to find it through CoStars. I say we. So the quote is from Eastern Environmental Contractors and has two components, $34,700 to install the pump and $9,750 to replace the existing pump check valve. One without the other, it makes no sense. So, does anybody have any questions? Public questions? Okay, I make a motion to approve the CoStar's proposal from Eastern Environmental Contractors in the amount of $44,450.
Second. Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the CoStar's proposal from Eastern Environmental Contractors in the amount of $44,450. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. The ayes have it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, my next one should take actually a little time because we need to make some decisions. Yes, but we need to discuss it.
Yes.
Okay, we need to replace the playground equipment at Ridgeway Park. And it's really in bad shape and it's way out of date. We have 3 proposals. The first one comes in, it's from Game Time. The pictures are amazing. Are you gonna put those pictures up? Or
Yes, they're the 3 other attachments I said.
oh,
So the one named Game Time is the first.
Mhm. The Game Time proposal is the most expensive at $230,000, but it is also the most unbelievably impressive. It is almost completely accessible as well. I mean, we would be one of the few townships that has 2 accessible play areas. And they're integrated with the typical population, not separate. As we've seen in some other places. It is really beautiful. But that's what I'm taking, and it's really quite a bit more expensive than $230,000, but because we're gonna use our guys to put down the mulch, we're going to use CoStars, and we're going to get yeah, that's what I just said. And we're going to use some PRPS, Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society funding. So that reduces the price by $100,000 to $230,000. I know it's an enormous amount of money, but quite frankly, we put it aside just for this. So we have it, and you know, making our children happy is a big part of what we do. The next one is, you can go to the next picture, is Burke.
Yeah, that looks.
Burke is got a much smaller equipment. It's not accessible. It is cheaper. It's $159,000. Well, actually, is it less than 159,000?
Yeah, but he accidentally included.
Okay,
the-
so it's really
the
closer to
quadrant.
$119,000.
Right.
But it also has a lot less equipment.
Yeah.
And it just uses a much smaller footprint in the space, provides little stimulation for our children. Personal
So
opinions.
that one actually is the 159, though that edit in the quote is mine.
But it's okay.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so it is down to 159,
Yes.
okay.
So we're talking what, $50,000 spread?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, more like 70.
It's 229 on the final price.
230.
Generally, they weren't as responsive to the quote, so like, if for some reason you wanted to tell us to work with Burke, we would add some equipment to that. Because they incorrectly included things in the quote to keep it around 200. That
The
should
goal was, my goal was, when I talked to everyone, was deliver something around 200, you know, we'll do the prep work, you know, design something to make something that's inclusive. So there's a difference between inclusive and accessible. So we've been going the inclusive route here. So that was my goal to all three of us. I said, look, we want to be around two. This is what we're looking for. And let them.
So
Is
we
there
don't have,
anything?
we don't have that available, though. We don't know what else they might add to them.
I could just call them up and, yeah.
I guess that and to ask your question in a second, if there's an inclination to want to work with Mark, we can have them revise that and send that around in advance of the September meeting when we would ask the board to make a decision on it.
Okay,
But if you're excited about something else, then you could just let Burke know.
okay. So.
Sean, do you want to ask something before?
Well, my question is actually about, what, if anything, might stay as far as current equipment, given each of these quotes. We haven't talked about the third one yet.
Yeah.
So my goal would be to keep the smaller set that's there, that's for 2 to 5.
Yeah,
And my kids are older now, but I have kids 5 to 12, any kid can go on that.
Yeah.
And anyone that has little kids knows they're gonna go on the bigger thing, but I would keep the smaller one that's there now, that's rated 2 to 5. I would keep that piece there.
The swing stay as well.
The swing stay
Okay.
and that.
From a liability perspective, that is not the official position.
That's from a parent.
So it would build out.
We actually.
So it would go in towards the fence, towards the right field, yeah. There's
So,
enough room, but all the designs kind of had to expand a little
Yeah,
bit.
the third one. should-
Yeah, yeah.
There, okay, cool.
the third option is Compan. I'm gonna make that up. That's how you pronounce it. And this is for $192,000. They don't work with PRPS. So that is their quote. And it's difficult to see what it is that they're saying.
Yeah, he wasn't as clear as the other ones, you know, give
He
you a
wants to
nice.
leave 2 pieces of equipment
Yeah,
in there.
yeah.
What, do you know what they are?
That shows the 2 to 5 piece that's there.
Okay,
That's a spring fire truck that he's showing there. And the swing set, which is, you can kind of see there with the cursor, the swing set's staying, because that's newer too.
where's the swing set on this? one?
It's sort of south.
Yeah.
Those two little
Bring down
blocks
the
that they-
cursor. Now, that's the fire truck spring toy.
Yeah,
And
down
then
a little bit.
it goes across the bottom.
Now, from what I understand, this is also accessible in some ways.
Yeah, they're all supposed to be inclusive.
I mean, you can, I see that they have ramps. It's just difficult to tell what is in this.
Yeah, they didn't have the same scale. of
Yeah,
detail
I don't
in
know
their
why.
proposal that we had. Yeah.
It looks similar to what, Game Time is offering, similar. I don't know.
It's similar, but yeah, it doesn't look as expensive as what Game Time is
It's
offering, but
not.
Game Time is more expensive. It is an extra $40,000.
Game Times has a lot of slides and,
It's very similar to what's in Philmont Park.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's a lot of activities and there's a lot to do.
What's the price point on Lower Moreland Park?
The Moreland Park in 2020, board selected game time equipment, which cost $131,694.
We want that price.
Yeah.
The prices
what-
went up
that's what I was
significantly.
going.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane how much the price has gone up.
Which is why the PRPS funding part is nice, but it's
Yeah.
kind of deceiving as to what has actually happened to those prices over the last 4 years.
But I will mention, I appreciate that Commissioner Kurtz and Commissioner Quinn, we had to go to a class to get that PRP $80,000.
Oh,
We
Reduction,
saved money,
yeah.
yes, by going to that class. We did.
well, if you save $8,000.
We did, we went.
We go to 2.
We went for the whole day and it was actually education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we do tonight? What would
Chris.
you like us to do tonight?
Or Steve, who's installing all these township employees?
Now,
Now,
they're gonna certify and install.
Because, yeah, on the quote, it said an additional 80,000 to have it installed. If I'm reading that correctly.
which one?
From game time? No, so his original price was $242 for the equipment, $80,000 to install it for a total of 322, and then he gave us the deduction, the PRP funding was 85, which brought it down to 240. Well, I called him up and told him that we need to be closer to 200, so he knocked another 10 grand off and went to 230.
Okay.
So that's, he said that he talked to his installer, instead of 79, he brought it down to 69. That just doesn't show on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would be doing the initial prep work.
We would do all the initial prep work, and we would take care of the stone and the one call.
And what's the lifespan on these?
The one that's down now is 1996. I put that one up.
The one in Moreland Park.
The one in Ridgeway.
Ridgeway, what about the Lower Moreland Park? What's the age on that?
We put that in,
That was the.
that was in 1995.
He's asked, I think he means how long is it gonna last?
Yeah, what's the,
25, 30 years.
Yeah, I think.
Is there a
I think
warranty
it was a
or is there like
25
a
year.
guarantee that like, hey, that, you know,
I'll tell you the truth, the tube slide, there used to be a tube slide on that one. Every time that broke, they replaced the pieces. I can see what the warranty is, but I'm not gonna say it's lifetime, but I think it's.
I mean, and the other question I had is from a reputation standpoint for me, I don't know anything about these companies. I don't know how long it's gonna last or, I mean, you know, of the three companies, you know, on the equipment, because all of them are a lot of money. I think I
Right.
can't believe how much
Yeah.
this stuff costs.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is, you know, is the game time one, you know, is it that much better? Because it's built better, it's gonna last better, the colors are gonna hold better.
We've had good luck with game time. We've used it in the past, but we've also used Playbook.
There's
They're
Playbook
both,
that Burke.
that's what's at our Valley Center.
Who's the company that sells Playbook?
Burke.
Okay, just for.
I'm sorry,
Self
Burke.
play one?
Burke, that's what, the one at
That's
Valley
the
Center
second
Park.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
game time's the one up in Lower Moreland?
yes.
yeah.
Lower Moreland and Justa.
Yeah, Lower
Yeah.
Moreland, Justin, and the ones that are currently at Ridgeway.
They both have very good reputation.
Yeah, they're
And they're
both-
very, good about replacing parts and whatnot,
Yeah,
if anything rusts or goes bad.
I think game time just usually offers more, and theirs is more of a ramp where Playworld had, Burke had more steps in some of their.
Rather have a handicap accessible. I'm in favor of going with, the first one, beta game time.
Yeah, it certainly balances out.
I like-
Park.
I like the game.
You know, the neighborhood adjoining to Ridgeway is pretty significant
And
to
it's
allow
going to
for them
grow.
to use Ridgeway.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna grow. There's a lot of kids over there.
Well, BET is gonna be built. right
And it's the funding that we get from those developments that I'm proposing you put towards this. So I think it's the funding from those nearby developments that is funding this fund.
Yeah,
And what's the total amount of funding we have, Bill?
So, so currently we have $269,500 in hand. With the upcoming developments and money that is owed, that becomes $488,500. That doesn't include just the overall cash balance of the Parks and Rec Capital Fund. You set aside close to $100,000 every year. If you're inclined to do the nice thing and build game time, you have the money to do it, you'll be just fine.
Let's do game time.
yeah,
So-
it's a beautiful set.
We'll finalize the pricing and proposal with game time if that's the.
Beat 'em up,
consensus,
Dave.
And then
Give us another
bring
one.
that back to you for a final approval in September.
Thank you,
Is that
thank
agreeable
you.
to everyone?
everyone.
Sean, you good with that one? You're more great. And the colors, you like these colors? You pick the
Yeah.
colors.
We'll figure out
like
colors.
Yeah, they'll give me color swatches and.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah, you pick the
All right,
colors.
let's discuss colors later.
You and Ruth come
That's like
together.
a name, I don't wanna do it.
Okay, the next item is the Valley Center Park. We received a local share account grant, which was very exciting, of $240,000. Unfortunately, because Valley Center Park is now rated as a wetland, and this is with the state, they will no longer allow us to chip that property. Chip the walkway that we have in there, or improve it really in any way. Other than to to mow,
Yeah, it can be a grass, natural trail.
right? Will they let us plant grass?
No, the grass that's there, you can mow that so that it's a trail.
Right.
Really can't bring in any kind of fill.
Yeah, so we're hoping that we can use this money, the $240,000, and switch it over to the parks and recreation, the valley, I mean, not the valley, the Ridgeway Park playground. And then we won't have to use any of our existing.
No.
So they're gonna approach and ask.
Yeah, so I guess the two components of it are, first, we wanted to explain to the board that unfortunately the park amenity that we have there needs to change. So we can't install the bridge that we sought the grant for, and we can't continue chipping the trail. So if that is understood, we'll need to make modifications on some of the signage and on our website just to change that notice. Through Public Works, Steve will continue to have a trail that is mowed. We may need to change the directions of it a little bit, just to make sure it stays in possibly drier areas. But that is what becomes the future of that nature trail at Valley Center. Then the second component, if that is understood and agreeable to everybody, then it seems like there's not really any major specific scope in the grant agreement for that project. So my plan was, if it's okay with the board, reach out to DCED, see if they'll allow us to apply that 240 to the playground we just discussed. And then we really don't have to worry about any of the funding considerations at that point. And it would leave all of that money that we just discussed towards other parks projects in the future. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
That's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the next is the sewer department
Oh,
report.
wait, do you need a motion on that?
No, wait, there's no motion.
Yeah, any of the
Oh,
things
wait.
that will specifically like be changes, we'll bring back to the board for approvals.
Right.
If there's anything required for a change of grant scope or anything of that nature, but for now, that direction is sufficient.
When it comes back, we'll beat them.
Okay.
So the next is the sewer department report. We are inches away from replacing the Hollowell ejectors, right?
Yes, they actually started Longview Station, they started this week.
How
They're
good?
actually a little bit ahead of schedule, so
Oh,
they did start digging there and then the equipment was dropped off. They started that this week.
but I think the one thing that I need to talk to about is the exceedances.
Yes.
They've been quite high. And how it works is if it rains over 2.75 inches, they won't charge us an exceedance. This day is
Philadelphia Water.
Philadelphia Water Department, sorry. We're gonna set the seed. So, it hasn't rained quite that much, just below it. And they're charging us for the full exceedance. I find that very aggravating because we have done quite a lot to make sure that there's no infiltration in our system. You've done it, you know what we're talking about. So, but it is what it is. The last, sorry, guys.
So what is the impact of that?
Yeah, I'm
Does
about
that
to
mean
tell
they're
you.
charging us?
The last
They're charging us
exceedance
correctly.
charge for the third quarter of 2024 was $98,525.40.
And what do you normally factor in on the year from the
50 as the high.
Yeah,
Now, we have an adequate fund balance just in the fund, but also because they've reallocated how they charge the long-term control plan, which you set aside over $1 million into. So we have the ability to address this. In talking with many of our neighbors, they've experienced $500,000, if not greater than $1 million in these exceedance fees. And for anybody who's not familiar, our challenge with this, the bulk of sewer in Lower Moreland isn't treated at the Chapel Hill plant. It flows to Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is under an order from the EPA and PA DEP that the main thing that they're trying to prevent from happening is these surges in their system. So when we have a major rain and if a lot of water gets into the sewer system, that goes into Philadelphia and it just complicates their treatment process. So there's limits in the agreement that we have with them for what they call an instantaneous flow. And it's a meter that hits every, 2.5 minutes. And if you continuously stay over that limit, all those 2.5 minute hits, you incur a fine. So that's something we have experience with. We've done several $100,000 of capital projects to reline areas that are known for allowing water in. And there's something about this last 2 seasons that not just us, but all of our neighbors are suddenly incurring exceedances that we've never had experience with. So while we've tried to prepare the sewer rates to have some amount of this covered, it is in excess of what we previously dealt with. But I'm not at a point yet where we're panicked, but just the frustrating thing about it is the money that we now have to pay in this fine to PWD is the money that we otherwise would keep using to reline sewer lines that we have issues with.
Right.
Or do we believe that the charges that we're getting are accurate?
So we have pushed back several times, and there have been a few occasions where PWD did incorrectly bill us. But in this instance, it is correct.
We have Mike McCree,
Yeah, our sewer engineer,
our sewer engineer.
every time we get one of those bills here.
Well, it's not just so much, it's not so much that like of reviewing the bill as it is that flow meters are working the way that they're supposed to be working.
That's
So
something that we.
their meters in Bethayres station, the main one, so they actually come out, recalibrate it. As soon as they see any kind of fluctuation, they come out and have it recalibrated.
And they share that data with Mike so that if we were to see something that was out of line that didn't match the rain totals for a certain day, we have pushed back on that several times.
And we're getting a new rain gauge at Longview, right?
Yeah, so Longview, we have a rain gauge now that's very accurate. So
Yeah,
when we do get an exceeds, that's the first thing I'll look at is, you know, what were they saying the rain gauge was? And then I'll go to our sewer guys, have a couple of them around and see, like, well, what was it here? And then I'll actually go online and try to find where Philadelphia is getting their reading from to where we are to make sure it's okay. That the one that we did, Chris called up and said, yo, you guys were way off, and that's the one that they reduced down by
Yeah, it essentially went from over $100,000 to like.
4,000.
Right, just because they applied the wrong.
event.
Yeah,
Because they applied the wrong rain data
yeah.
to, so, and that's where the challenge in all of this, us on a much smaller scale, but Abington, Springfield, the Southamptons and Bucks County. The topography of our towns meant that when we built out our sewer systems, we're not treating the sewers locally. So PWD essentially has us held captive in these agreements, and we've been able to negotiate some things that the other municipalities haven't, like certain waivers from the first time you have an exceedance that's not in anybody else's contract. But outside of those things, it's not like we have a backup plan where it's like, hey, what if we put in a 3 million gallon a day treatment plant in Elkins Field? Like that's legitimately the other option. So playing within this system is kind of what we're able to plan with, and that's where the investment has been, try to shore up the major lines that feed into that there to try to prevent this from happening. But sometimes it's just beyond everybody's control.
So I guess long term, because I mean, what concerns me the most about this is that long term, this is just increasing costs that will get to a point that it's not sustainable. And I guess, you know, what is the next step in terms of trying to address it? Short term, yeah, okay, we're gonna pay some exceedance fees, but we either budget to continue to pay exceedance fees, or we take some other kind of action, whether it's another treatment center, whether it's holding tanks to hold things and then meter it back in to keep it below those exceedances. But I don't know what the answer is there.
Right now, it's TVing, trying to TV our whole system to find out where we do have leaks, where we do have breaks. And then line, that's the cheapest, easiest way to do it. Any manhole that's leaking, I mean, you can pull manholes off. If you see water seeping in there, you know, we can line those. That's the easiest thing to do. We have, you know, hundreds of miles of line
Right.
that we need to TV
And setting this on also in perspective of, you reduced your sewer rates by what, $70 a quarter on every home in Lower Moreland, because we're no longer paying any debt service. So yes, it is very frustrating. We don't want to be paying money that serves no good purpose other than a fine. But also within the scope of the business operation that is the sewer system, it's still working within well within the reduced rates that were adopted 2 years ago.
Can we expect that, like on Philadelphia side, would they ever adjust their rates?
No, it's
or
only going to,
capacity
it's only
or-
going to get worse. So we haven't negotiated, they reach out to us with, we are now going to renegotiate this agreement. Because we are their smallest customer, we are the last entity that they come to. I've offered to Abington and some of our other neighbors, if, whenever they reach out to you, if you want to participate collaboratively in this, just so that we can provide feedback all together that is beneficial to us. But none of it is ever going to fundamentally alter that, just this is an expensive service.
Okay, well, have we, you know, I know we don't have the space for another treatment plant.
Absolutely not.
No.
We looked at, could we get rid of, like, could we get out of the treatment business, pump everything to Philadelphia?
Right.
But there's not a way to get it there. And so the reverse would be pump nothing to Philadelphia. And unless you would have to go to
A
the.
million gallons a day goes through Bethayres.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
A million gallons a day goes through Bethayres.
Oh, yeah, no, it's over.
compared to,
That's like 200,000 gallons.
so you would need a facility that is,
Well,
Yeah.
and,
And it's-
and your low
That's-
point would be open
That's
space.
400 homes, I think.
Yes.
Goes to Justin, goes to Chapel Hill.
And when you
70,
look-
80% of the towns it goes to Bethayres. So,
When you look at the flows over the years, they've, you know, they've gone up significantly. You know, as we build more, as more people move in every house adds something to it. So.
And we don't have any capacity concerns, like we've reviewed that to make sure
Mhm.
that, but. Yeah, broadly, it's a,
remember, it's a clay flower pot in the ground in all of our older neighborhoods, Just a Farm, Avondale. Most of Green Ridge, it's 3-foot terracotta pipe. It's, you know, it's just
No.
clay pipe that cracks, and
You're relining several miles.
so we take whatever we don't pay in exceedance plus whatever Chris can budget out, and we do as much as we can. Try to identify whatever's the worst spot. We just did Philmont, BT from Pine Thomas to Philmont all the way down to the Bethayres station. And we relined spots in there that we were getting 20 gallons, 40 gallons a minute.
Hmm,
So we lined those areas.
okay, but if we have like 100 miles,
Yeah.
how much are we doing a year? Do you have any idea?
we will never.
I'll add it up for you. I can add that up.
Okay, I mean, we're,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, you know, to
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah.
To see where we go, because of course, once.
I'm
we
gonna say
dig it,
we're doing about a mile a year.
A mile a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our road paving program, our sewer relining.
Well, I mean, the last question that I have is, you know, do we foresee a point in time when the exceedances and the fees for the exceedances are gonna cause us a problem? Well, you
If
know,
this
so-
is the worst we've ever experienced, not yet.
So we're just gonna see what happens going forward. I mean, there, you know, when you hear about weather projections, we're supposed to get more storms.
Right, so the plan would be that we need to keep reviewing the system.
Yeah, we'll work with other townships, it sounds like, and we try to collectively, I mean, it's the state coming to Philadelphia saying,
Right,
right,
so-
so to do this, they're then coming to us saying, this is what we have to do.
Right, so any collaboration with other municipalities is going to be a very minimal impact. It really has to do with the ongoing maintenance of our system and just the practicalities of operating a sewer system in suburban Philadelphia.
The goal for me is line everything, fix every leak. I know you're probably, Mike will tell you, you're never gonna fix every leak, but my goal is to stop every leak. If we stop every leak in our system, then it's coming from somewhere else. It's coming from the outspouts, sump pumps, stuff that's not
And that's
really
something we
supposed
should
to be in.
continue we should continue to do.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, well, if these continue at the rate they are, maybe we need to
Yeah.
put somebody just on relining the sewers. And we could, I mean, or something, maybe storage tanks, I mean, we might want to look at.
Yeah, we like figure out what sort of financial impact, like in 1 year, how many dollars we might save from doing that.
This is the first time
To
we've
see if
ever
we
had
can
anything
chip
like
away one
this.
direction.
We just don't.
Right, so if this year was the most we ever paid in exceedances, and it'll be like $120,000, that would be a bag of peanuts towards the capital project that would be necessary to build your holding tank.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
The firehouse.
All right, well, my liaison positions are the Township Authority, which we just discussed, and the Historical Architectural Review Board, which did not meet again. Hey, Jill, can't you find us something to do?
I'll get that on it.
They really, they would love to meet you.
Okay.
Okay, that completes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Hausen. Next, the chair recognizes Commissioner Page, Chair of the Public Works Committee.
Thanks, Denise. Item W, review 2026 trash recycle contract concepts. Our trash and recycle contract is up with Republic the end of next year. So we do have some time. We have to start planning because we know that it is going to significantly increase. Manager Hoffman, you kind of want to take it from here and give.
Honestly, after the last conversation, no.
Oh, my God.
So here's our next example of service we have provided for years in a certain way that simply won't work anymore.
Yeah.
So everybody knows the details of our current collection program. So see bids for that in other municipalities, and we're relatively unique in providing a third-party collection that collects trash manually twice a week. So we know from our current hauler, Republic, they will not bid on that program anymore if there's manual collection. The last time we saw bids, the only other bidder was Mascaro, and their price was double Republic. So if our current trash fee is $350 a year, and we built in a couple of years of deficit spending, we're probably looking at a $450, $500, if not more, trash fee to keep the same program and hope that somebody else bids on it. So if we know that that's not realistic, we need to look at how else do we structure the bid to give some options for the board to review. So I've talked with Republic, I've reviewed bids from other communities, and a couple of the things that have come up. We currently have separate bids for collection and disposal, so we mandate Republic to go to a certain disposal facility with a agreed upon tipping fee per ton. It's time to discontinue that as our bid concept. Instead, we should have the hauler name their DEP approved location so that we can have hopefully a few more haulers submit bids, so that we can have some competitive pricing. So that is one. We also have always sought like lump sum pricing for the total length of the contract. I think that causes the bidders to have to come in a little bit higher overall. So one of the other recommendations is to bid annual pricing on a 5-year contract instead. Next consideration is that if Republic isn't going to bid manual collection, we need to go to automated. So that would be providing a 96-gallon cart to every home in Moreland, providing an outlet for if that is not enough for you to buy a second one. And then looking at other things like getting pricing for both twice a week collection and then also reducing to 1 time per week. We currently just have a broad bulk trash collection that on your second collection, you can put out 2 small items or 1 large all the time. That should probably be scheduled. And then bidding yard waste as an alternate, because the way that Republic has bid that on the 3 contracts where we've done that, they kind of artificially put money into different parts of the program. So you can't really tell what any individual program costs. So having that as an alternate might just give us more direct pricing and give comparative options. Talking with Commissioner KURITZ today, perhaps one other way to look at a controlled cost is to bid every other week for yard waste collection rather than every week. And then being able to drop off in Public Works at any point throughout the year as your options. The one good and simple thing in this is that our current recycling program does work. So there are no recommended changes to that. So I wanted to bring this up now because when we need to have this out to bid in the 2nd quarter of next year, so that If it is Republic, I guess that's an easier transition. If it's a new company, they need to be able to bring the equipment on board, have the staffing in place. We need to buy the toters. So I want to put out a bid that gives you as many flexible options as possible, but with the understanding that these things are going to be, there's somewhere you're going to have to make a decision to be different, just in the automation. And then on some of the other things, frequency, you're going to be making a cost decision of maintaining the same level of service and it costing more, or reducing to try to keep costs the same, and whatever the consensus is of the board is what we go. So I will try to build in as many flexible options for you, but know that I'm nervous generally that any of them are going to be particularly good. So that is the great news on trash.
Do we have any way to understand how much any of these services are used?
Yeah, so I guess the only one, we get the tipping piece on the tonnages from Waste Management where the trash goes. If you collect once a week or twice a week, it doesn't change overall the amount of trash that is collected. It's just how often it happens.
Sure.
So I don't know that is as like impactful of an implication. We don't, I guess we do ultimately get the yard waste tonnage.
We get the yard waste.
But as to whether or not that comes from a few large users or many smaller users, there's no data that we would have that supports that.
I mean, I think that, I mean, this is something that affects every single resident. And I would imagine that any changes to it, there's going to be a lot of comments. And I think, you know, we have some time now to solicit feedback and to understand, you know, what the aggregate of the community seems to need, whether it's recycling, how much, you know, twice a week, once a week, yard waste, no yard waste every other week, however we do that. I think that we should solicit that feedback, and however we get it, before we make decisions that we're really informed that how people are using it and what's needed, because this to me will be a change for everybody, right? And you know, maybe twice a week is too much, but you know, Chris, to the point that you made, the waste that we're generating is the waste that we're generating, right? So I think there's, you know, part of it is, you know, how we can maybe encourage more, you know, less waste. It's always a good thing, but there's going to be a change and there's going to be a cost to doing that. And I think that needs to be threaded carefully.
Have we ever pursued like services that would allow us to like do widespread polling or try to get some sense of, again, I'm thinking about, is there a data way that we can approach this to get the best sense for how people use services? So we know what's super easy to say, like, yeah, we can do this.
So here in Lower Moreland, no.
Not yet.
Right.
I have one resident that contacts me every like 3 months and tells me that she's annoyed that we collect trash twice a week.
Yeah.
Oh, we know who that is.
Once a week,
Yeah.
Say hi to
I'm hearing what everybody's saying, especially what Dennis is saying too, but would it be to our advantage could we send out, you know, say we get one bid pricing, could we even send out for another bid? You know, in between, no.
I would combine all of your options into one single bid packet. That is a time consuming.
Okay.
Detailed.
So say we get a bid and then, you know, and then we, you know, we could reach out to residents and get their feedback, then at least we have cost. And then we could show them that also.
I don't know if we need to get costs and then go, I would poll residents to, if possible, to just find out, like, anecdotally, how often, like, do you tend to put your cans up twice a week or once a week? How often do you use yard waste? And just ask some general polling questions to give us a broad sense for how people perceive the service. Because I know, like, I'll speak personally, I put my cans up once a week. We don't,
Right.
you know, there's 4 of us in our house, and
Sure.
that's tend to be what we do. Sometimes we do it on one day versus the other, but
Right.
that's just anecdotal. But even if 20%, 10% of the township
Right.
gave us their anecdotal feedback, it could give us a feel for what we could shoot for, and then how to communicate, you know, what we need to change.
But out of all these bids, I mean, from what Chris said in his memo, the option one, we know, which is the bid for 5-year contract manual. It's manual. Basically, Republic really doesn't do manual anymore. Not many other haulers, really, nobody does manual anymore. Twice per week, it's really moot. Option one is really, nobody's really gonna bid for that. So really look at option 2 and option 3. It's really, automated, which is really what the other trash haulers are going to. Twice per week trash collection, hauler owned toters with both bulk pickup, pre-scheduled, automated once per week recycling. Option 3 is bid a 5-year contract, automated twice per week trash collection, township owned toters with bulk pickup, pre-scheduled, automated once per week recycling. Then option 4 is bid a 5-year contract. I mean, and then, and then option 5, I mean, could we possibly send a bid out for option 2, 3, 4, 5, and then do an option 6, which would be the yard waste, for weekly, and then do the and then twice a month, and then at least have costs, and then we at least have numbers, and also whole residents also at the same time.
My personal opinion is, I think you want to collect some feedback first before you go to bid. I don't think you want to do a bid, get feedback, and then have to do another bid. I wouldn't do that.
I think in a pre-2024 world where the pricing was gonna come in relatively flat, I would tell you, do your jobs as commissioners, as the representatives for your wards, and just make the call. But because it's going to be, I think any of the options is more expensive, I think it does make sense to get feedback. In terms of our staff capacity to go get that, we're gonna need to talk about how you do that.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting like very detailed feedback. I'm talking about like some high level things to just be directionally correct.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
And then make the decision.
We might legitimately just be able to, if we circulate some questions, put that out as a poll that has a link in the newsletter and put it on our Facebook page and
Something like that.
Gets to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a tear off or something online or something like that.
The 5-year contract we have now, every year it progressively increased,
So,
or it's the same rate each year.
it was the first 3 years were the same rate. We got option pricing for years 4 or 5. The way that they price these out, it makes sense for us to do a 5-year contract. So that they can spread out the amortization schedules of the trucks and the different equipment that is used over a longer duration contract.
Okay.
And what, in all the townships in the area, how many of them are structured? Like, I mean, townships that I've lived in, like I had a contract my own trash, right?
Yeah.
So how do we compare to others?
There's probably the 2 biggest examples would be those that have municipal collection and those that have the resident contract themselves. We don't, and I guess that long predates me being here, but if you can have single hauler, if it's the municipality or a third party, that at least keeps the number of trucks off the road. So not every day, everywhere is trash day. Because you would lose that control. Out of the former waste system authority municipalities, it's us and White Marsh, I think, are the 2 that are third party.
Yeah.
Everybody else is either municipal or resident contracts directly.
But and I guess resident contract directly, I mean, that is an option, right?
You could choose to get out of the business entirely.
That is an option.
Yes,
Look at Chris's eyes lighting up. Great idea.
you could make your trash fee $0.
Well, we also have some, things that are probably more generous than the other places, like.
Our collection program is
Which, I mean,
We do.
the large,
That's a lot.
And that's my thought about
Yeah.
trying to get some feedback from the township about how much they actually use it. Again, I'll speak personally, like when I first moved here, I didn't know we had yard waste collection. I didn't know that was even an option. And it was sometime before I learned that. Now I'm sure in the packet that I got when I moved here, I went through it as I did, but there's probably a lot of services that people just don't even realize they have. And if we asked about it, we would probably learn some things where it would make it easier for us to find the right package for the township.
well, and I think something like bulk pickup. A lot of people now, when you buy a couch and they have it delivered, they'll take your old one. I mean, and that is what I think most people, most townships do. I don't think.
And I don't think that that's a big cost driver. In the same way that right now they don't charge anything extra for white goods.
Yeah.
They used to charge for the
Like
sticker.
you said, pay for the sticker.
So,
Right.
but the big thing I think is like, the biggest change and the ones that yield the most cost savings is going on.
Yeah.
The white
It's like
goods, or is this the same thing? If you buy a stove or refrigerator, they will take that away when your new one comes in, or even Pico, if it's working, Pico will take it, you know, and they'll give you credit for it, so. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Chris. You want some help in looking at how to poll?
I think if it's just, we can put together like a doodle poll. I think we can frame some of the questions and send that around to the board to make sure and get feedback on making sure we're asking the right questions.
Okay.
And then I think that puts us in the right spot to be able to turn around the bid packet for April, May.
Okay, great.
We have to be cognizant of our older residents like Miss Rosenthal, she's not wheeling down a 96 gallon to the corner.
Right.
It's not gonna, I help my neighbors with their 64 gallon.
Right, so what we did,
We're still gonna have,
toters, we bought a certain amount of small ones. But I'll tell you the truth, we only gave out very few.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know. that a
that's
lot
all
of
one
people
got used to it.
think you can get a smaller one.
What's the size of it?
64.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
it-
the elderly.
Because I know that people, the older people are really having shoulder problems getting that.
Give me a call, swap theirs out.
Okay.
Well, we should definitely,
And
Let the
maybe one
elderly know
other quick
that.
thing, just to simplify it, I would highly recommend that we purchase the toters rather than the hauler. So that in a changeover of a contract, we're not having to build in the cost of those every single time.
Yeah.
So if I can work out a financing strategy for those in our trash fund, that also simplifies the number of bid options we would need to seek.
And there's, I mean, for recycling, we were able to get a grant, but there's no chance of that. for trash.
Correct, because they don't prioritize the trash collection.
We do. It's one of the things that we are expecting. All right. Yeah, thank you.
All right, item X is review and consider Brent Athenborough DCEZ grant letter of understanding. Manager Hoffman has been talking to Borough Council President Jeff Elsing. You know,
Yeah, they submitted a multimodal transportation fund grant to make sidewalk and stormwater improvements on Alden Road. There's a couple of homes at the top of Alden on the south side that are in Lower Moreland, even though the road is owned by Bernathen. So just to have this project positively impact those, I signed off on this letter of understanding that they could include in their grant application that was due at the end of July. So I just wanted to bring this to you retroactively to show you what I had committed you to, which is there is nothing that, like, we can't make a claim for the grant, nor will we participate in the grant. So it's as simple as that.
But they're going to fix where our people
Yes.
live as well.
and they're 100% funding it,
Correct.
the Borough.
Which I think they intend to do regardless of the grant. So, but this was the first time they submitted a grant application of that size.
Any other questions from the board or the public? So I have to make a motion to authorize township manager to sign the letter of understanding for Bryn Athenborough MTF project.
Second,
motion's been moved and seconded to authorize the township manager to sign the letter of understanding for Bryn Athenborough MTF project. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, commissioners.
Item Y, kick it over to Steve for Public Works. A little update.
You guys
You
will
have
have
anything
it,
else?
yeah, but we're at street painting, so you see guys at theirs, we're putting a lot of speed timing lines out. And this is our big school crossing time, so we get them out there. Sure, everyone sees the construction at the school, they're putting the more mast on them. They report that they're getting ready to put that at the high school driveway, and Valley Center Park will be closed.
The 26th to the
Yeah.
28th, so 2 weeks.
So the only way to entrance that will be to go into the Fairway Plaza.
you said 2 days.
It'll probably be 3 business days,
Oh.
open by the 3rd night on Wednesday.
So they're gonna pave and
Yeah,
finish the work.
we already ran that by HVA to give them the peace of mind that the project timing.
And obviously the high school sports, they'll be there during the day, so they know what's going.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Any questions?
Any other questions for Steve? Good. Liaison positions, HVAA, travel soccer just started back up this week.
Registration for in-house soccer closes this Thursday. So there's softball starting this fall. Baseball tryouts will be in September for the following year, and basketball just started up in Red Line Gym. And pickleball players, weeknights are no longer available from 5 to close, so.
But you, yeah, sure.
Sorry for that. They have been showing up the past couple of weeks as there's been practices started last week. And there's nothing else going on there. So I have.
Nice job.
So I got it,
Good job.
yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Pace, next chair recognizes Commissioner Blanton, Chair of the Ordinance Committee.
Okay, so first item on my agenda is to review the zoning hearing board agenda and decisions. So I'll start with 5 applications are in the upcoming August agenda. They're meeting, by the way, this Thursday in this very room. Now, in the last couple months, there's been questions about some of these, so I'm going to ask the board to hold your questions to the end. I'll go through all 5 applications. Then I'll ask Jill to come up, and if there are any questions, then we can answer them all as we go through. So first, I'll start with application number 24-23. This is the application of Vladimir Matkevitsky of 3920 Pondview Lane. They seek a variance to increase lot coverage to 40%, where 25% is permitted, to enlarge his driveway by 450 square feet. This property previously received a variance in 2019 to increase lot coverage to 32.8% to allow construction of a swimming pool and patio. The second application is 24-24. This is the application of Bethayres Properties LLC for 2344 Philmont Avenue. This is for an addition and reconfigured parking at the existing dental office. They requested variances and special exceptions to include a parking reduction from 32 to 19 spots, and expansion of a non-conforming structure from the floodplain. I'm sorry, that one has been continued, and so it actually will not be meeting in this public meeting. Application number 24-23, application for Andre Levitsky and Maria Betson of 573 Bell Road. They're seeking a variance to increase their lot coverage to 36%, where 25% is permitted. They want to allow construction of a 901 square foot patio and walkway within the 10-foot side yard setback. That one has also been continued. Yeah. Those 2 have been continued. That one also been continued, so I will not be meeting on Thursday as well. So the final 2 here, 24-26, the application of 3475 HP LLC. This is for the Sunoco station and store that's on the corner of Bethayres and Huntingdon Pike. Basically, use variance to allow the convenience store in the BOI district and expand the store into the existing service base. They also seek a variance to reduce the required parking from 28 to 24 spaces. And finally, application 24-27. This is the application of LMTSD for the new signs at the renamed Lower Moreland Middle School, the previous high school. They're seeking variances regarding the wall sign height, the lighting, and square footage.
What's the name going to, Sean?
I'm sorry?
What's the name going to? Is it the middle school or?
Lower Moreland Middle School.
The old high school.
The old high school will be called Lower Moreland Middle School. The new high school will be called Lower Moreland High School.
And what about Murray
Avenue will continue to be Murray Avenue, as will, and Pine Road will keep its.
Which will be 6th and 7th grade or?
Murray Avenue, so Pine Road will be K through 3. Murray Avenue will be 4 through 6. Lower Moreland Middle School will be 7 through 9, I believe. And then the new high school will be 7 and 8. It's just 7 and 8, excuse me, 7 and 8, that's right. And the new high school will be 9 through 12. Any questions about anything in the agenda for the upcoming zoning hearing board?
Well, I think we need to talk about the one.
Sunoco?
Yes.
Sunoco, yeah.
So, Jill, if you'd like to join us, just in case there's anything that you have, what questions do you have about that one?
Well, in theory, I actually don't have a problem with it, except that I don't want them selling liquor.
So right now they can't.
They
So
can't.
they had previously applied for the transfer because they had purchased a liquor license and they scheduled that with the board, but then there were components of having the liquor license of what they needed to do in the store that were going to essentially change the use from a convenience store to a crappy sit restaurant. So you needed tables to eat your convenience store hot dog. So they rescinded that, and are not currently seeking the liquor license side. So this is just to expand the convenience store into the existing bays. The thing that we,
No dining
Correct.
option for them.
the thing that we don't know is could they in the future try to transfer a liquor license? Also, in the hypothetical that they are successful getting the use variance and the parking reduction, this is still a land development that would subsequently have to go to the planning commission.
Yeah, so they're seeking variances if it's possible to do it.
So what is there, 2 bays there?
Three.
I think there's 3 bays. They want to take all 3 bays and expand that into just a larger.
Store than what's there today. Yeah.
For hot.
Like a mini one.
I called Solicitor Rice. I still have some concerns, and I talked to Chris about it today. My concerns are they want to expand their convenience store into the 3 garage bays, and I initially thought, after Ruth sent me an article, that it was coming in. Thank you, Ruth, for sending it to me. And I just have, I don't know what it's gonna be, what they're gonna sell, and are they allowed to sell items that to me might be,
Can it turn into a smoke shop?
could it turn into like CBD, the hemp stuff, these different things, the vaping,
So
these
there's no
other,
way to restrict.
so I feel comfortable, I would, I feel like maybe we should send Solicitor Rice this other stuff called Delta 8, this palladium, cadmium, what's up?
Kratom.
Kratom, this stuff that's dangerous for children, for teens, and I mean, I'm a little square, like, cause I don't do any of this stuff, but
Yeah.
I worry about kids that are gonna go in there and instead of just buying the soda, it's gonna be there accessible.
They sell it now.
It's already there.
They sell cigarettes at base now.
Right, but I mean the other stuff that might be there,
Delta 8, which is a THC product,
You know.
Kratom, which has some.
Can they sell it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
and I don't know if there's a way to.
There's no regulation of either of those by the state or by the feds,
Can
But-
we?
but there
That's
are,
what I'm saying, we could,
well, let me just. Getting all over the place here, there's a long history on this property. There's a 1961 zoning hearing board decision involving this property. And then there's another one, like in the mid-60s. And they initially, 3 years ago, Chris, filed for the transfer of a liquor license and sent it to the township, which required us to schedule a hearing. They also at the time, and they did that, wanting to expand into the bays so they could have sit-down eating, which they would have to get the liquor license. They also had a drive-through proposed around the back of this property, remember? And so we scheduled the liquor license hearing until we found out what they were going to do. And they pulled that and canceled that. I wrote a letter in August of 2022 to their attorney, basically saying, because their attorney was contacting Bob Shattuck over what could be done, what couldn't be done. And said to her, basically, and I can send you the letter I sent, was, if your expansion into the bays is just some way to get your foot in the door, so you can then go for a liquor license, don't do that. Don't spend your time and money and effort. And I mean, I sort of suspect that that's what this is about. What they sell there, now or in the future, those 2 products, some municipalities have put restrictions on the sale of those products, like within 1,000 feet of a school, a daycare. I'm involved in a court case in Delaware County now, that precise issue. And so far it's been upheld. So there's a lot of questions about this application. They need variances. If the zoning hearing board would grant the variance, they can attach conditions, such as no sale of alcohol. If it's just that, but I'm suspicious because of the history, 3 or 4 years of somebody just filing these applications and scheduling a liquor license hearing. He actually had a license he was going to transfer from out of the township to this site. I think that's what the owner wants to do. I don't know why else he would do this.
So can we, say you can have it, but no liquor ever?
We would ask the zoning hearing board, I mean, they still need the variances.
Right.
You have to have somebody there to ask the questions. Because if nobody shows up from the township to cross-examine the witnesses and get into some details. Maybe even subpoena some records if needed. There's, 2 or 3 years of just very vague applications. Hoping that nobody says anything, and Bob and Chris and I spent fair amount of time two years ago going back through the records. There's multiple zoning hearing board decisions there, which have conditions, which they have to comply with still. So it's not just a variance to, have a larger convenience
I
store.
think we're all in agreement, we don't want alcohol at that location, and it's
No.
pretty clear from everybody here, right? With that being said, I don't just send representation, and very clear to the zoning hearing board that we oppose this and move on with the conversation.
I was gonna ask, would they have, as part of this, that same sort of historical record? Was it worth you sharing that as a function of this?
Yeah, I would bring that. I think there's 3 old zoning hearing board? There's at least 2.
Yeah.
The earliest one is 1961, which I reference and I pull up my letter that I had sent 2 years ago. But I know there's 1 or 2 others.
Are they complying with the conditions that were previously imposed?
I don't think so. I mean, that's a question I would ask, in terms of that, but
Because if they're not complying with what they're supposed to be complying with, then they shouldn't even be asking for anything right now.
well, there's a gap, like in the 60s and 70s. You have this old, and then there's maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years, there's another one. And then what has happened, I don't know how the gas station got there, right? We're not sure how, because that's not a permitted use. Somehow that gas station, because that was a grocery store. It was mainly a grocery store. Is anybody old enough to remember the grocery store for the gas station?
Chris, do you remember
Yes.
when you were little?
No way.
So
It's been a guess. We've been.
I remember the diner next to it.
It was a Citgo gas station back in the 80s.
This was a Citgo until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but I remember it being a Citgo, like,
But these are relatively new owners.
we're talking about the 50s and 60s. That was a
library.
it's not a gas station. It was a grocery store.
Are you, I don't know if this is what your situation is, but are you saying that a possible route would be to have someone go to the zoning hearing board on Thursday?
Yeah.
Representing the township
Yeah.
as party to this in order to ask?
Yeah.
If that, would you do that, if that was the case?
Oh, yeah.
And would we, are you recommending that? Should we?
Yeah, I would
Yes.
recommend you send somebody. It probably won't be me. Peter Nelson's available. I talked to Peter. And I do most of the zoning litigation anyway.
Okay.
So he's available. He would go. It's a pretty easy case to knock out when you're asking for a variance. It's a big burden for a property owner to get a variance.
Sure.
Especially on something like this, but I'm more interested in some questioning, the owner, assuming the owner shows up, what his real plans are. And asking him about, the liquor license and what's that kind of thing, just to get that on the record.
Is the board amenable to that?
Yes.
And if so, is that a
Yes.
committee that?
Make a motion, motion
Alright,
to authorize solicitor's office to.
I'll make a motion to authorize solicitor rights to go to zoning hearing board
I'll second the motion.
for the Sunoco at Huntingdon, Pike and Bethayres. Application,
Do the vote.
3435 Huntingdon Pike, application 2426.
Perfect.
So we should vote.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah,
Yep.
yes.
Motion's been moved and seconded to send solicitor rights to zoning hearing board. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. No opposed. Thank you, commissioners. Motion's passed.
And I mean, maybe with these previous things, it would be helpful just like not a very lengthy summary, but like maybe like a paragraph of like what is non-conforming right now and if, you know, there's things on that property that we should be addressing
On this site.
on this site.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the gas station that it might never have been approved there. Can we do anything about that? Or is that like
That's
under?
that's ancient history.
So the zoning hearing decisions are 1940, 1946, 52, 55, 58, and 61.
Mark, remember 1940.
The last one.
Yes, I mean, we went through more than.
Right.
Not mention the gas stations, as I recall. I'm gonna relook at it. Yeah.
I didn't think gas station.
Maybe that's just another last thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there, when you have a use, it, let's say, magically appear.
I'll read out
and,
this.
You don't do
Decisions
anything about it.
something
That needs to be considered.
So I'll finish my report by going through the decisions from last month's. There are 5 decisions, one of which I will need some thoughts from the board on. So first, application number 24-16, the application of Carrie Gibbon of 3883 Buck Road. Sought a variance to allow reduction of the side yard setback from 30 to 29 feet for an overhang. The variance was granted. The next application 24-17. This was the application of Solomon Mermelstein for 2600 Huntingdon Pike, otherwise known as 10 Feathers Mill Square. He sought a variance to permit a ground floor apartment in a mixed-use building. The variance was denied. Before I continue though, we did receive a letter from the attorney representing Solomon Mermelstein for that application. And the letter is included in your packet and they requested the board to consider a zoning change, which would permit first floor apartments in mixed use dwellings. The highlight to that, it would have ramifications for effectively the entire corridor of Huntingdon Pike to allow for first floor apartments on any one of those buildings that basically span from Red Line all the way down to where Welsh and Philmont hit Huntingdon Pike. So the question for the board is anybody interested in having a discussion about whether or not we would rezone that district?
No.
John, can you reply to that letter?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, 3 more. Application 24-18. This is the application of NVR Inc. for the Philmont Country Club development. They were seeking variances to permit 2 24-square-foot, 8-foot tall limited duration signs to promote the new homes they're building. The variances were granted with the added condition to confirm the sign shall conform to PennDOT sightline requirements. Application 24-21. This is the application of Robert and Lona Sifliku for a vacant parcel on Randolph Street. They sought variances to permit a single family detached home on an undersized lot, both lot area and lot width. These variances were granted. And finally, the application 24-22. The application of Tatis Bruscos of 1062 Sorrel Lane sought a variance to increase lot coverage and reduce the side yard setback. Those variances were denied. I'm sorry?
Do you know why they were denied?
The vacant lot, so I may not say this with the correct language, but effectively that lot is undersized and has no other use. And if the variances were not granted, then that lot would be effectively like, it would be dead. It would be unable to be used in any sort of capacity. It would be dead land that could not be used in. And so the board sought it. There's legal precedent to suggest that it's not their fault that the lot is that size. It's in a district that would allow for that sort of.
No, I think they're talking about 1062 Sorrel Lane.
Yeah.
Why is that denied?
Sorrel Lane,
Okay.
hold
I
on.
remember.
25 to 28. Got it.
Yeah, let's see
It
here.
still don't look like that big of.
Let's see here. So a lot of that work, so it was built without permits. So the guy, he got permits for a retaining wall and then halfway through construction changed what he was building and built something different. And didn't seek permits for that and communicating, he wasn't aware that permits were necessary for that, but had gotten permits for something else. And so the board denied him. The variances he seeking.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. My liaison positions are the zoning hearing board, which we just spoke about, and my other liaison position, which that board has not met, so I have nothing to report. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lee. This concludes our agenda items, public participation on any non-agenda items. Does anyone like to address the board this evening? Anyone on Zoom?
Yeah.
If not, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Thank you. The motion's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dave.